do you understand this is 5 years? Do you understand you're going to lose your name? Do you understand you're not going to go back home for a long time? Here's what happens if you die here. Here's what happens to your body. They go into that process.
We're America, man. We win everything. We're the good guys, right? And bullets are just skipping off the ground, man.
You stink, Marine. And don't you think you could have washed your mud off your camis before you came up into my chow hall? Like I flipped my gun off safe, my LT heard it.
No, I was just sitting there. I walked through the whole house where I lived, and everything was torched and carnage, and everything was broken.
They wanted me to go out alone and find this guy, right? And I knew as soon as I spoke English, I'd be shot.
We can take a minute. You have to.
I'm good. You could send it. I don't want you guys to cut any of this. Just leave it raw.
Mic drop, supporters and listeners. It's Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a big deal around here. I wanted to take this opportunity to put together a kind of best hits or a montage set of clips that really reflect our veteran community. And, you know, I've been incredibly fortunate over the last 6.5 years that I've been doing this show to have on some incredible men and women, veterans that have served our great nation at length, put their lives on the line, sacrificed a lot of, personal relationships, their body, have just put themselves through the ringer for our great nation. And I wanted to highlight a number of different guests and share some of their stories for a kind of best of veterans clip to celebrate and memorialize Veterans Day. So a little bit about Veterans Day. Veterans Day was originally established as Armistice Day to mark the end of World War I on November 11th, 1918, honoring those who served in that conflict. In 1954, it was expanded to celebrate all U.S. veterans, recognizing their service and sacrifice across all wars and peacetime. For me, it's an incredible honor to be able to sit here and interview so many good veterans and so many amazing individuals that have served their country. And I appreciate the support that all of you guys have given us over the years and given us the ability to act as a platform for a lot of these, patriots to not just reflect on and share their story, but also help a lot of other veterans who need to hear, some of the struggles that they've been through and need to see some of that commonality from veteran to veteran and hearing so many of these folks share their stories and they can relate to it. And, to be able to A, do that, and B, receive, so many messages from fellow veterans or even civilians over the years where, I've had a guest on that helped them through a tough time, or they reached out and connected with them and, we're able to help each other is just, it really makes being able to do this not just an opportunity, but one that is an absolute honor. When I say it's an honor and a pleasure to welcome, the next guest, that's coming from the bottom of my heart. It really is and truly is an honor to be able to do this. And I'm not naive on the fact that I get to do this. It's a very, very special project and thing for me to be able to do. I'm continually humbled and honored to be able to do it. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning in and supporting a show that primarily focuses on veterans and their stories. And I hope you guys enjoy this montage of different stories from several different guests that we've had over the last few years. And I hope that you take from it what we intend, which is, these folks telling their story, keeping our history as a nation and service alive, and everybody being able to relate to and appreciate what these guests have done for our great nation. So happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. Hope you guys enjoy these stories. And again, thank you for the support. It means the world to all of us. So you come back, you're getting ready for Somalia. Somalia kicks off. Can you kind of walk us through what that was like?
Yeah. It's the hardest shit I ever did. 30 years later, right?
Yeah.
Fucking hits me.
Yeah, the first 5 missions were like, no shit, let's go. We're America, man. We win everything. We're the good guys, right? And you go in there, and the first 5 missions were just making noise, shooting at, not even shooting at people. You hear bullets flying back and forth, and we win the day, right? The 5th hit was Osman Otto, and that was one of those, the guys hit the ground. We were supposed to circle the top again. I'm like, fuck, I hate circling the helicopter, I went on the ground. And then a gunfight broke out, so we roped right into the intersection and just took off. And I remember there was a machine gun nest a block up, and me and my buddy our whole team hit the ground, but me and my buddy were like, looked at each other, and like, near ambush. Fuck that up. It was a far ambush, right? Near ambush, rush it. So we start rushing down this alleyway with walls on both sides, nowhere to get out of the way, and bullets are just skipping off the ground, man, around us. And I'm running thinking, and the guy in front of me is taller than I was. And I'm already thinking, as soon as he gets hit and goes down, I'm next, man. It's just waiting for that. Finally found ourselves to a spot and opened up and took out that nest and shit. And that was just one of those, okay, that amped it up a bit. And I think I took somebody's life on exfil from the 2nd floor. He was getting ready to shoot at our helicopter on the 3rd floor, and I shot. He didn't even see me. And that was like my first, like, whoa, no shit. Like, I looked at him across the street, and he didn't look at me. He had no idea I was there. And drilled him right in the head, and he just fell back. Gun falls out the window. I'm like, holy shit, like, fuck. Calling for my team leader. I'm like, Pete, you see that shit? I just shot that fucker in the face. He goes, all right, good job. Keep doing your job. I'm like, fuck, this guy doesn't get excited about shit. And then you go back, and you're like, man, that was scary as shit still, but here we are. We made it. We won again. And then 3 October, that's when everything changed, when right on infill, getting shot at, RPGs through the helicopters and getting shot at, and guy falls 90 feet. You hear that on the radio. We got infilled outside of the perimeter, so we had to take a house down under fire and fight our way in. Grabbed all the detainees, moved them, getting ready to exfil them, and then the 5-ton gets hit with an RPG and blows up. And then a ranger sitting next to a gate, just taking a break, his neck explodes. I'm like, fuck, this is growing. And then I hear an RPG, and I look up, and I see the helicopter spinning out of control off to the west. I'm like, fuck me, and I'm still trying to make jokes. Like, we're going to make it home for dinner, right? Like, still dinner, right? I didn't bring night vision. I didn't bring water. I didn't bring shit. In and out in an hour. That's what we were always at. Ended up fighting our way down the street, to the crash site, and just spent 18 hours there. That whole night was just, that's when it was hell on earth. I don't know even how to explain it to people who won't it's wasted on people who don't have a clue, right?
Hey guys, I want to take a minute to tell you about the Mic Drop Patreon, where you can get the real mic drop experience the way it's meant to be seen. You get completely uncensored, unfiltered, and uncut episodes with nothing held back, just raw, real conversations directly from me to you, without YouTube censorship. Plus, you'll see it days before anyone else, with early premieres and exclusive bonus content that you won't find anywhere else. You get behind-the-scenes access to the show, including pre- and post-show footage, with me and the guest both in studio and on location, depending on what the guest is into and what we have going on. On top of that, we've got tons of Patreon-only perks, mic drop swag, access to exclusive merch, and the chance to submit your questions to be asked at the end of every episode. You'll also get a sneak peek at our upcoming guests, so you'll know who's in the studio weeks before anyone else. We're constantly releasing new features and dropping new content based on what you want to see. For our top-tier members, you get the same Mic Drop Challenge coin that all of my guests receive from the upcoming show, which will never, ever be for sale. We've got quarterly merch that's sent out directly to you, a monthly Zoom call with me where we talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, and an active group chat where we all shoot the shit on a daily basis. All of that for just a few bucks a month to support the show. Right now, we're also offering a 10% discount off an annual subscription, which means that you get more than a free month. I want to say thank you to everyone who has already signed up. Your support means that we get to keep bringing you the content that you love. So if you haven't yet, hit the link in the description or go to patreon.com/micdrop and join the team. I'll see you guys in there. Thank you.
Since the Civil War, dogs have stood alongside our military, proving to be indispensable partners. Our military prioritized ensuring proper canine nutrition for optimal performance, recognizing its vital role in mission success. Team Dog embodies that standard, offering science-based, customizable meal plans tailored to your dog's unique needs. Developed by a former Navy SEAL and K9 trainer, Team Dog Food ensures the highest quality nutrition for our K9 companions. Improve your dog's well-being. Be your dog's hero with Team Dog.
I guess to not to interrupt, to compare it to the way the movie depicts it, how would you contrast it?
You know, when you watch the movie after being there, you're like, oh, it's kind of funny. I didn't see half that shit. You know, and they were like, was all that true? And I go, I don't know. I mean, maybe some of that was true because I was, of course, war scenes are all similar and the same. I mean, you show up an RPG. What country was that in? It's all the same. It caught the chaos. It caught probably some of the humor, and it caught the fear, I think. Could it ever really, show somebody what it's like? No. But I think it got close. I haven't been able to watch it since the first time I watched it. I've tried with Jen a couple of times, and it's one of those things I get into. Like, she's like, "You sure you want to watch it?" I'm like, "Yeah, it just popped up. Fuck it, let's watch this shit." And I know those people, so it's not a movie to me. It's a reenactment. I just kind of break down. I can't do it because it's a lot of loss in one day.
Yeah. Did the movie, from your perspective, I know it's been a while since you've watched it, did it miss anything that stands out? Like,
the movie was told from a Ranger perspective. Couldn't really talk to Delta guys about it. There was a couple that were involved due to them getting out, but it was mostly Ranger stories. So a lot of the people in the movie are doing scenes as a Ranger that unit guys did. So one guy might do 3 things that 3 people did, just to kind of catch it. Or the Rangers saw an event happen, so they're trying to depict that in the movie as what they think happened. So they missed a lot of internal shit from our unit's perspective, what we did up on the front edge of that, because they were kind of behind.
Can you share any of that?
There was a lot of animosity about why we weren't out in the street, all of us, and I think it was a leadership breakdown that was the scuttle back in the day. I don't want to get into that because I'm not the guy. I was a young kid then. My job was to break shit and shoot people, man. I wasn't in charge of anything. Hearing the stories down the road years later and talking to people, it was like, yeah, there was a breakdown. There was some people screaming, cowardice and poor leadership on the other side. But, I wasn't down there, right? I wasn't down there. I didn't see it. And I've learned to talk about what I did and what I saw happen. But other than that, not to guess, because that's someone else's opinion possibly. But a lot of talk about the breakdown in leadership and how we could have used more people out on the street versus just the few that we had that were going out and doing things. Like when my team leader was like, "Hey, we need someone to run ammo across the street." I'm like, "Fuck." "Hey, we need someone to run water across the street." I'm like, "Fuck, I hate being the new guy, I was a new guy, but there was a newer guy. He got blown up. So he's laying in the living room, recovering. I'm the guy running across the street under fire, like, fuck, being the new guy sucks, And where's the younger, the lower ranking people? Where are those guys at? They were down the street. But they didn't talk about that. I don't think that was a story that was told. Yeah. I don't think that's a story people want to tell, right? It makes us look bad versus real. But I think they captured most of it, I think, I don't think they captured the anger after. You're flying a deed around in airplanes and shit and like back to negotiations and of course you're pissed off,
Yeah.
But that's our job.
Yeah. Yeah, that 18-hour period that you guys were, I'm not going to say pinned down, but in one area.
No, we were pinned down. I'd have left if I could. That's for sure.
Yeah. Loadout-wise, you didn't have water, you didn't have night vision. Armament-wise, what were you guys carrying, and what was your loadout mag-wise? Like, were you similarly lightly loaded down?
Basic load, 210 rounds, 5.56. I probably had 5 45 magazines, one in and, 4 on my hip. And I carried a shotgun too, like a little shotgun. So I had that ammo going for me as well. That was it. That's typical what people had. Some had sniper rifles, but most of us had kind of the similar thing. Some guys would have 203s and things like that, but that's kind of it. Everybody carries their grenades and whatnot. But yeah, 210 basic loads all went in with. We were back in the day. It was one of those in and out, man.
Yeah,
we're the unit, bro. In and out, man. And then boom, you're like, fuck, we weren't ready for that. It was one of those. It's a big learning moment a real big learning moment, I think, for a lot of the Army and definitely for us. For me, you know, maybe the unit was repeating things, I don't know, but for me, it was one of those, whoa, don't have helicopters hover overhead. It's kind of like telling everybody where you're at, you know, and plus there's somebody to shoot down there. You know, bring your nods, bring water. Don't ever think you're going to go in and out. There's always prepare for the worst, you know. It's one of those, we're hostage rescue people, man, you know. We don't stick around. No, but when you don't think about the option that might be taken from you, you know, the enemy has a vote.
Yeah.
We were just kind of stuck, and we unprepared. You know, at my age then, I would say we were unprepared. I don't think anybody would argue that.
Yeah. When during that period, were there waves of gunfights? Was it like can you kind of go through that period? I know we don't have time to spend 18 hours talking about it, but
there were waves. It was you could hear the commander in the air flying around telling us, you know, our ISR telling us, hey, there's a huge group of people forming on the outskirts of town. They're loading in vehicles. Oh, they're heading your way. And you're like, fuck. You know, and you'd hear that all night long. And then there'd be a wave of people going through and shooting at you and launching RPGs and trying to sneak up on you. And then that would kind of go away a little bit. You'd notice the volume was trickling down. At one point, 2 dudes walking down the street right into the middle of our intersection. Me and my buddy were laying at the gate. And he's like, Jake's like, hey, look at those fuckers. You know, you could barely see them. One had an AK over his shoulder. They're just chatting like they forgot where we were. He's like, what the fuck do we do? He's like, I'm going to light them up, you know, with this flashlight. And he lit them up just to make them do something, because we won't shoot anybody unless it's a threat. And he just had his gun over his shoulder, right? Yeah, I mean, right? So he lights him up with the flashlight, so that dude pulls his weapon off his shoulder, because that's what I would do. And then we lit him up. You know, and then one guy took off running. I ran to the next window to try to shoot him, and he's dropping the guy in the street. And it was one of those, they just keep coming, man. They're on cot, they're drugged out, and they're just rounding them up out of town. They're bringing them in. And whether they know what they're doing or not, I don't know. But giving them weapons and coming at us, it just kept coming in waves after wave of the volume would pick up. You know, the house was getting broken down by RPGs as they would get close enough to hit the house and tear down that wall. And I'm thinking, fuck, the next one's coming into the living room, man, you know? So, yeah, those waves kept coming to the point of, I asked my team leader one time, you could hear the convoy trying to make it to you as well, with the 50 cows roaring, and you could hear the gunfire coming at them. And I said, hey, are they going to make it? And he just looked at me, he's like, no, I don't know. And he turned and walked out, and there goes my fucking team leader again. You know, no motivational speech at all. Yeah. Just, I don't know, just the truth. Just always just the truth. I don't know. And that's the moment I was like, well, all right. Okay. And I got happier. Like, fuck it. I'm dead, right? I'm dead. So let's just go, right? It was kind of like that fear was gone. Like, yeah, you're going to die, so let's just do as much as you can while you're alive.
Wow. That had to be a sobering moment life-wise, and one that changes your perspective forever, I imagine.
Yeah, to this day.
Yeah.
To this very moment. It's it ruined me.
Yeah. The waves, I mean, it sounds reminiscent of like the fucking Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like they're doped up on cot and they're almost fucking zombie-like mental state-wise. Is that kind of what it was like? It's just like these waves of fucking erratic people that are walking into being mowed down?
Yeah, and I kept wondering, like, why do they continue to come? Did they not see the first group of people? You know, you'd shoot people and you'd see your tracers going through them, and they just kept coming. And I'm like, it's like, are we not hitting the right spots? I mean, are they so skinny? Are they drugged up? I mean, it was one of those things where you'd shoot. I mean, you know, you double tap and you move on to the next target in training. You know, I learned, no, I'm going to empty 10 or 15 into you, because the 5.56 doesn't kill you right now. You know? Yeah. I'm going to have to hit something important, and I'm going to keep looking for it till I find it.
Yeah. I mean, were there just piles of bodies piling up?
They would drag them back. You know, I mean, there was the close-in ones, sure, they would stay there, you know, and on the run out, the mile run out, I would see people dead laying around and shit. But the numbers that they're taking out with the little birds and the rockets and shit, I mean, they were hauling them away. I didn't get out to see if they were still there on the streets, you know, where they were trying to come in. But I didn't see, it wasn't stacks of bodies. It was just, I know that they were dragging people back. Yeah. And I know the hospitals, you know, you could hear the radios, the hospitals were filling up.
Yeah. Did any of you guys run out of ammo?
Yeah, we all did. I know I did.
Yeah.
I had my knife on the bed at one point, like, fuck, you know? And then got an ammo resupply, which exploded in the street. We're out there trying to scrap up, you know, ammo out of the dirt and then pass it around and then ran out again. And so when I ran out the next morning, I probably had one mag left and I emptied that and I was picking up magazines on the road. There'd be 3 in there. I'd knock dirt out of it, stick it in my weapon and, you know, and shoot at whatever I saw and then find another mag down the street and there'd be 1 or 2 or 3 in it and I'd knock the dirt out and use it, you know, until I got back to the Humvee finally and we loaded up. Like, all right, you're going to go in this Humvee, you're going to head this way, you know, there's tanks and Pakistani BMPs and shit everywhere. And I was like, all right, I feel good now. There were tanks launching into the streets. And I was like, whoa, I've never seen tanks shoot before, man. They were just shooting at everything. And grabbed more ammo on the vehicle. And that was the first time we actually had back up to a basic load, and that was on our way out.
Wow. What was the period for you guys from your situation of when you finally were able to leave that intersection? Like
the period of time?
No, I mean, what happened? Like, what was the box that needed to be checked for you guys to be able to bail out of it?
We had to get the pilots. The pilot bodies were pinned underneath the aircraft. They'd blown through the windshield, and they landed on top of them. And so we couldn't get the bodies out. So once the Pakistani 2 vehicles made it to our position, the rest stayed about a mile away. They couldn't get into the city. They didn't want to, you know. You don't want to take armor into the city. And they made it to us, so we used those vehicles to pull the vehicle up while we pulled out the body parts that we could get and load them on top. So that's why we wouldn't leave. We wouldn't leave the bodies behind.
Yeah. So once you recover them, you make the mile. Was the mile out treacherous? I mean, were you getting shot at?
Yeah, all along the way. I mean, I almost got hit by an RPG. A guy in front of me got hit. I mean, I literally, from the target house, we went back south and was going to make a right back east the way we came. And I knew the helicopter was laying there, and I knew they were going to rocket it with an Apache. So as soon as we hit that intersection and turned, I turned because I saw the Apache floating, you know, and I was like, I'm going to watch this. Like, I want to see what it looks like. And they didn't launch them, and all of a sudden, I waited enough, and I was like, all right, it's not going to happen. Not while I'm here. And I turned and looked, and nobody was on the street. And I'm like, I fucked around. I just took off running. And then a guy jumps out of a little inlet along the walls, jumps out and goes in here, and he pushes me in there, and right then an RPG hits the wall as he's coming in, and it kind of fucked his ear up, you know, but he hooked me up and saved me from that. But all the way out, there were people firing everywhere. You know, one of the city incidents where you don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But you get shit will skip off the walls, off the ground. You're like, I'd love to shoot somebody, but I don't know where it's coming from,
Yeah.
you know?
And you're down to a mag at that point.
Yeah, and I don't want to waste them,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I can't shoot anybody when I can't see them, even if you're getting shot at. So
Yeah. So once you finally made it out through that mile, what happened after that? Did you guys end up going back?
Yeah, the plan was to go back to the Pakistani stadium, which was close in town and secure. All the tanks, all the Bradleys, and the Humvees would go there. At 10th Mountain, had Pakistanis, Malaysians there. And it was one of those, you guys load up and then Humvee. Okay. And so 2 Humvees just took off. I don't know where I'm going, man. You know, I'm in the back. I'm happy, you know, and we just go and we're just shooting all along the way. And then finally we cross that line where the good clan and the bad clan, and oh, by the way, don't kill anybody anymore. They like us. And it's like, okay, so nobody's taking fire. And it's just us 2. And every intersection we came up on with the burning tires and shit, and people shooting at us, we just kept shooting back. And they were like, what do we do? I got to just blow through it. Don't stop, man. Don't ever stop. Made it back through the port to the back gate of the airport, and nobody was there but 2 Humvees. And I sat there for like 30 minutes, and they had no radios. The radios were dead. I'm like, nobody's coming. I don't know. They're all dead? It can't be. You know, I didn't know that they all had gone to the Paki Stadium, and we got lost. I found out last year when I did a post or something, a picture of this Humvee that I sat on. Some 10th Mountain guy wrote me, go, that was my Humvee. And we went there because I did a post about, I have no why I ended up here, you know, blah, blah, blah. He said, we got lost. I'm like, oh, good to know. All these years later, we got lost. And he goes, that's why we went. We went what we knew. We went back to the gate we knew, and but we didn't know where we were going. So we just did that.
Wow.
So everybody else went to the Paki Stadium and were flown back. And so I was sitting in the hangar waiting. I didn't know what had happened yet. I knew when we pulled in, I saw on the road, right before I entered our compound, there's like 12 bodies laid out on the streets covered with ponchos and shit. And I saw the boots, and brown, black Adidas salt boots. Brown, black Adidas salt boots. I'm like, what the fuck? Those are all bodies, and they're ours. And then we pulled into our compound, and there were Humvees just parked in different angles, full of blood, with sand all over the ground, where they'd pulled people in all night from trying to reach us. And then I realized, how bad the night was, not just for us, but for everybody. And then they all started flying back in. All I was doing was reloading my weapon, cleaning it, and then I started hearing about so-and-so's missing, so-and-so's missing. I'm like, fuck, we have people missing? This is like real movie army shit. I used to say, how do people go missing? How do you have a missing in action guy? How do you do that? You always account for somebody, right? Left and right. And I realized how easy it is to go missing, and not know where anybody is.
So did you guys keep going back in and continue to fight after that?
They wouldn't let us. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
We were. They brought another squadron over.
Yeah.
We were decimated, but we were ready to go back. We wanted to. And
Yeah.
The command's like, no, you can't. This vengeance is not going to happen for you.
Yeah. The black Adidas assault boots were unit guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. You lost 2?
More, but that's what I saw laying there.
Yeah. As you guys know, sleep is a huge component to recovery and really all aspects in life, and it's something that a lot of us have struggled with, for a lot of our lives, frankly. As you know, I've been a big proponent of Beam, which is a hot cocoa that you drink before you go to sleep, and it's helped tremendously in terms of hours of sleep maintained as well as the quality of sleep. Today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, which is their science-backed hot cocoa for sleep, and it's got no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. As you know, other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess and just make you feel crappy, but Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and apigenin, also melatonin, to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/micdrop, all caps, all one word, and use code MicDrop, all one word, all caps, at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/micdrop and use code MicDrop for up to 40% off. So I want to tell you about this company, SLNT, that was kind enough to send me a couple of their products, and they've come in handy. A disturbing new way to steal your car is reportedly on the rise worldwide, and most of us don't know just how easy it is to become a victim. In fact, in the next 20 seconds, one of you could be the next target. It's been reported that in 2023 alone, over 1 million cars in the United States were stolen, and in many cases, it simply looked like an owner was getting into their car. To prove how easy it was, a UK reporter tested it earlier this year. All he needed was 2 small devices, a device no bigger than a tablet and a cell phone, to copy the car key's fob, even if it was inside a house, in less than 20 seconds. He was able to break into a luxury SUV and drive away. This type of keyless theft is one of the reasons why so many car owners wake up to find their cars simply gone, taken immediately to chop shops, or shipped out to foreign countries, never to be seen again. The crazy thing is this isn't just limited to your car. Similar technology can be responsible for data theft and could damage your phones and laptops too. To me, there's no other option. You must try to protect yourself, and the best way to start is with SLNT. Silence Faraday products help block all incoming and outgoing signals so no one can get their hands on your information. From key fobs to phones to laptops, simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and that's it. You're off the grid and safeguarded from unauthorized access. Go silent today at slnt.com/micdrop to save 15% off plus free shipping on qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and help secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/micdrop for 15% off and free shipping on qualified orders. slnt.com/micdrop. I use the products and I love them. How many Delta guys total were there?
We're there?
And in on it, I guess.
Maybe 40.
Oh, wow.
Maybe.
So, I mean, that's like an entire squadron was there?
Yeah, the whole squadron was there.
Yeah.
And then the Ranger, but maybe 40.
Yeah. And how many total were lost?
18.
Delta guys?
No. 6.
6.
I think it was 18 total.
Yeah. This may seem like a silly question. Not bringing any water in, did you not have a drop of water that entire time?
out of the pipe that came out of the wall, man. Flower pots and shit. I was dumping those on iodine tablets everywhere, you know, just here's a couple iodine tablets, shake it and drink that shit, man. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you got a night and you think, you know, what if I shit my pants? Who cares? You know, I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
It was just that. But it was just dripping, and then I was taking the flower pots and shit. What it was left after pouring them on the couch that caught fire from the RPG, you know, trying to put that fire out. But, yeah, it was... Yeah, it was all out of the pipe in the wall, man. I don't know that anybody had water.
Yeah. So they wouldn't let you go back and fight. How long did you personally and as a unit, stay in country before you came back home?
The other squadron stayed a little longer. We went home maybe 2 or 3 weeks later at the most.
In that 2 to 3 week period, what were you guys doing?
Training with the other squadron. Like, hey, we'd go out to an old abandoned village or something on the beach, you know, and do hits with them. And it was funny. You could watch. You could see the 2 different squadrons doing the hit. And you could look over here in, like, C squadron. You couldn't see shit. Guys were down, crawling upstairs below the walls. And, you know, not the bullshit, standing by the wall and looking in the window. You could look at the other squadron. They're, like, pieing off windows and shit. Like, that don't work. That shit doesn't work anymore, man.
Yeah.
So you could see the difference of people who had just gotten their asses shot up and people who had not had that done with them, even during training right then. But we were passing on as much as we could, getting them set up for what they could do, and then we packed up and left. And then they didn't stay much longer after that either.
Morale-wise, for your squadron, were you guys pretty beat up?
Man, you know, I don't know. I'm sure we were. You know, it just goes so fast. I know I was sad. I was beat up. A couple of days later on the 6th, when Matt Ryerson got killed with the mortar round that landed, you know, right after the memorial ceremony for all the others who were killed, and wounded more and killed Matt and wounded our commander Gary, and it was and a couple other people. I had just walked by that spot when the mortar round hit, you know, and a chunk of it hit me in the leg and took a chunk out by my cot. And I went running back out there and found my friend who was hopping in. You know, he just got hit on his Achilles. And he's like, and grabbed me and threw him on a kite. He's like, avenge me, avenge me. He's funny. You know, but then you could hear our commander screaming. And then they moved us all into the bunker along the back because they were still mortaring. And you could hear him screaming. And I had my hands over my ears. I'm like, God, just fucking stop. You know, just stop. That was the most horrible screaming I'd ever heard. And it was just one of those, I want to go back. I want to go back out there and fuck everybody up, you know? Just the anger that comes in, you know, when you've taken a hit on the chin, you want to pay it back. You know, because we're America, man. Shit doesn't happen, right? It was a good learning point for me in reality.
Why was your commander screaming?
He had gotten, the whole back of his body was just blown apart from the mortar round.
Wow.
And he was laying there just bleeding out, and they're trying to keep him alive. And he lived. He just died recently, actually, of a tumor. But
man, so going home from all of that, I can only assume that would change training and SOPs. And was there a circle the wagon, come to Jesus, we need to change some shit and unfuck ourselves? Like, was there any of that?
Mm-hmm. Lots of urban warfare changes. Lots of, like, what if we get stuck? Well, no more in and out, right? In and out's great, but if you don't get out, what are you going to do? You know, back to the regular Army basic tactics of how do you dominate an intersection properly versus we'll do it when we get there, you know? No, how do you really do it? So there's a plan. Change the way we did mount, you know, urban warfare. We had to relearn a lot again in Iraq. Relearn the same messages, but we did a lot of training. And to me, it was one of those, this will never happen again. I'm going to train harder and harder and harder and harder, and that will never happen to me again. And I think that's another thing that piled on top of me, of I'm not good enough, right? I got to do more. I'm not good enough. I got to do more. And so I'm hearing I'm not good enough, you know, and so I think it just started tanking me towards the end of my career, and then definitely when I got out. It was one of those, you can't keep that shit from happening, right? No matter what you do, you can't keep it from happening. You can mitigate a little bit, but you can't stop it from happening. I was trying to mitigate and keep it from happening. You know, I didn't want it to ever happen again, and then it did again in Iraq, you know, to my troops. So, in a sense, to my troop.
Between Somalia and Afghanistan and Iraq, were you just doing training? Did you do a host of kind of smaller real-world stuff?
Yeah, it never ended. If you weren't in Iraq, you were at another chunk of the world doing some other shaping or other missions or training, or you had your week off, or whatever that was. Go tell your family you love them and then come on back. It was one of those, you were always training. And if you weren't doing the training stateside, which is family time, you were doing missions other than combat, which is what we did all the time anyway. But then when you had combat in, okay, now there's combat. So you train up, alert cycle, you're off cycle. Turned into train up cycle, combat cycle, train up cycle. It was no real off time.
Yeah.
It was always getting ready for the next, or some officer wanted their next star, their next tab or rank. So they would poke around parts of the world. Let's go here. Let's go there. Let's go there. So you're always drumming up missions to figure something out. So there's never any downtime.
Were of any of the non-Iraq and Afghanistan things that you were doing? I know a lot of that you can't really get into, but were any of the things that you were doing super combative, or was it all shadowy stuff?
Shadowy, kind of intel driven, finding out what's going on.
Yeah.
Passing it along. And then passing it to people who will take action, in that part of the world.
I'm assuming you can't say anywhere where you were at.
Yeah.
All over, though?
Yeah. All
places
over that part of the world for sure. And then trickle down south a little bit. And then, like Indonesia kind of.
Area?
Yeah.
South Pacific?
Yeah.
Once Iraq and Afghanistan, or I guess when Afghanistan kicked off, 9/11 in particular, where were you at in your career when 9/11 hit?
I was a troop sergeant major. No, I was a team sergeant when 9/11 happened. And I was flying over New York, going to Boston with 2 teams to do training. And I saw the World Trade Center was on fire. I got
From a plane?
Yeah, I got my GPS smashed against the window. Just, where are we? I'm bored. And I was like, oh, we're over New York. And I'm like, look down. I'm like, look at all that smog, man. It's nasty down there. And I didn't know that it was the World Trade Center's burning. I don't even know if both had been hit at the time. The pilot came on the intercom. He's like, are there any military people on board? I'm like, fuck, what's he asking that for? I just figured the guy that boarded us on the plane, took our tickets as we boarded in Raleigh, used to work at the unit and book travel for everybody. Now he's working at the airlines in Raleigh, taking tickets as you board the plane. And I, hey, what's up, man? And I got on the plane. So when I heard the pilot say, there are any military people on the plane, I'm like, oh, Woody, what'd you do? What'd you say? What'd you you're going to fuck with us or something? So I raised my hand and she called me up, and I had 2 teams on the plane with me.
Which is how many guys?
Probably at the time 10. Yeah. 10 maybe.
But you're flying Comair mixed in with everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he pulled me up and he opens the door and he's all haired. Hey, there's been an attack, terrorist attack. The planes have hit this and that. And there's people hijacks everywhere, and staying here until anybody in. I'm like, what? He shuts the door. I'm like, okay, shit. What does that mean? So I just am standing at the door of this airplane, the cockpit door, and I know there's 9 other dudes on the plane. I ain't worried about it. Everybody on the plane is looking at me like, what's this weirdo doing? He gets on the PA and tells everybody what's going on.
That seems like a mistake.
They start tripping. And so I stood there until it landed. And then as we're on the tarmac, the crews, the flight attendants opening the door like in the Air Force and shit. I'm like, he goes, hey, ladies and gentlemen, I want everybody to stay seated except the military on plane. They have to get off. They have a job to do. And I'm like, I dig it, but it's not like I'm getting off the plane and going to war. First, we got to figure out who did this shit, right? I don't even know what's going on. But if you're going to get me to my rental car and my bag's quicker, I dig that. So we got off. Then we started seeing the TVs, right, and the news, and we got our rental car, and we were heading out. Like, we're going down to Plymouth to do extrication training. We get stuck in the tunnel coming out of the airport, and there's a van in front of us, a flower van. I go, that's the next thing that's going to fucking blow up, and here we are.
Yeah. Was your command not in contact with you saying, hey, get the fuck back here?
No. And once we landed, I called down, like, what's up? We got to figure out what's going on. I'm like, okay, we're going to keep training.
Wow.
Well, the other team leader from the other team that was with us, apparently he was calling back every day. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm like, it's not even his team trip. It's my team trip. They tagged along. And we're supposed to leave there to go driving up in Connecticut or some shit, BSR. And my boss calls me, CSM calls me. He's like, hey, you guys need to head down to Jersey. Atlantic City. Our planes can't fly any higher than that. And we'll pick you up there at the air marshal place, and we'll fly you home. It's like, fuck, all right. So we drive down there after training, catch a flight home. And I get home, I go, why'd I come home? He goes, because this motherfucker wouldn't quit calling me. I looked at him like, what the fuck? I go, well, tell you what, tomorrow I'm driving all the way back up to Connecticut, and we're going to do our fucking driving training, you know? So we drove up, stopped in Hershey, Pennsylvania, finished the drive the next day, and continued training. And then when I got home, like, hey, we're going to set up an invasion of Afghanistan, and I want you to go out to New Mexico and set it up, our rehearsal. I'm like, yeah, all right, fucking finally mobility. I get to do mobility, you know? This is going to be badass. I go out of New Mexico, open up my suitcase, and there's a fucking card in it. I'm like, I open up the card. Second year you forgot our anniversary, don't fucking call me or send flowers. I'm like, man, I fucked up again, man. 2 years in a row, I guess. And that's the time that I when I got back home from setting up that trip, I told my sergeant major, I said, man, I don't know what to do. This is the worst time of my life. I'm getting a divorce probably. I did this. Here's the card. He's like, you're so past. You're so beyond going to training. You've been here so long anyway. You're out of here. I'm like, no. He's like, nope, you got to go. So I became an instructor for 2 years. The very first war kicked off.
Wow. All right, so once you get into this kind of 3-tiered rotation, you fucked a lot of them up. Can you share some of the heavier operational stories that some of those took place, and just kind of walk through like a step-by-step?
Yeah. Getting out to 5 points was different. Just because we hadn't been there yet, I think. And so the first couple of patrols I went on were like familiarization patrols just with the area. I would go out with other squads before I took my squad out. And then it became, one day it became that I had a census operation to do. We wanted to get census of military-age males, imams, and mosques in the area. And so I ran my whole patrol. I got 50% through my patrol, halfway through it, and about to RTB. And I look to the south, and I'm on kind of our southern border, the border they told me don't go south of here. I look to the south, and man, there's bad times going down there. Black mam jams everywhere, glassing us, cell phones in their hand, the whole nine. So I hit the Wacho up, say, hey, I want to go down here. What say you? I had my lieutenant with me. We're about to go get him, and then came back and said, yeah, every 30 minutes, give us comms checks, but you're good. So we go down there, and I'm talking to this imam at this mosque, and I'm asking him, where's the Taliban? When do you know? And of course, none of them, no Taliban. And one thing I would tell the people there, and 2 times they had to make me a man of my word, is I would tell them, if I walk out of here after you telling me there's no Taliban and I take fire, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to come back and I'm going to put one in your head. That's how serious I am. And just like that day, no Talib, very good, have these smiles on their face. And as soon as I walked out, shoot, whap, right past me, hitting there.
So you walked back in?
Not that day. I waited till he fired at me to walk back in. He was part of it.
The imam?
He wasn't an imam.
Oh, I got
just a guy.
He was just playing one on
and
TV.
I thought he was an imam, Turn around, and you know when you look in somebody's eyes, they want to kill you. They have lust for your blood. Seen that. I put him down. We killed a number of dudes that day, maybe 8 or 10 of them. And we got down on. That was a day that put guys down, and I'm watching their weapons, knowing that nobody's taking them. That day was intense. We were down there, and there's a lot of canal systems down there, and I had a short Marine named Wright with me, short little dark green Marine, and he went down in one of those wadis and almost drowned. Something you're not thinking about in combat, And so the wadi was a little bit deeper than he was tall, and we had to hold him up and get through wadis. So that was weird. One of those things I didn't think that wasn't something I thought about, how to lose a Marine. Hypothermia is another thing that I didn't think about that happened on that deployment.
In training, did you guys ever practice river crossings?
No.
No, rivers, no.
No, would just get in it and go like that. That's kind of what they do for us.
Yeah.
They had some bridge systems that they brought into Marcia, some of the truck company guys, and I'm sure they did a lot of training like that, but no, I didn't do a whole lot of crossing.
Yeah. So going back to this kind of 3-tiered rotation, you got patrol, you've got the picket stuff. What was the third one?
Like a raid force. So we're building building packages to go out to certain places. Sometimes it'd be to blow up a bridge.
So these would be like quick assault target packages where it's like you build intel, build a concept of operations, it gets approved, you run, do it, and come back. It's usually like less than a day.
4 to 6 hours if nothing goes bad.
Yeah.
And maybe a little longer if you get in a fight. But by the time we were doing 5 points, it doesn't, I know it's only like a month in, but a month in, you've learned a lot of things as a squad or as an element when it's like that.
Yeah.
And so we just meshed, totally meshed. And yeah, like 4 to 6 hours, you're going to step off, you're going to hit some points. There's a lot of things on the back end as a squad leader and as team leaders are doing up at the COC, putting pre-approved strike packages together on houses that you've took contact from, establishing the patrol route, and then afterwards, whether you took contact or not, you're meeting back up with the C2 click, node, the intelligence node for your company, and you're debriefing everything so that they can build another package for the guys. But more often than not, we went up and we tangled with them. And I remember towards the end, we had something called a 5-day war is what we refer to it. In the book, it's referred to that. And we went up and just absolutely got in their backyards, blew every bridge up, fought every one of them that would fight us. The only time ever in my career I went red on ammo as a squad. We had a machine gun lose the sear block, so it ran away, and I ran out of ammo on one of my guns. It was a wild push on that one, and we did that for 5 straight days. We put a PB up in their shit and just ran out of it for 5 days with two squads reinforced, just absolutely staying in their face.
PB is what?
A patrol base, just like a 24-hour. Usually, by definition, you only want to be there for 24 hours. But we stayed there 5 days and just dared them to come on. We were taking fire at our patrol base. Our machine guns on top were taking random rounds when we didn't have a squad out. My squad did the only attempt but successful peel in combat, like Aussie peel, which was pretty cool. It's like a lateral enemy element that's like in a couple of buildings this way, and we had to go. We were running out of ammo. That was that day, and it just worked. I remember thinking about it when it was happening, because we had like a 2-foot little irrigation ditch, dry, and the enemy was moving the same direction we needed to move, and we opened up with a lull, took one of them out, or I hit him with a lull, and on the lull shot, that was the initiation of the start of the peel, and it was just beautiful. It was just one of those things that you like seeing from your dudes. They go down, and we peeled back into the patrol base after that. It was like a 200-yard peel through this irrigation ditch, but it worked, and we put the rest of those guys down, and then broke contact back to the patrol base. The little things that stick out, like they had watermelon fields. So after a long day of fucking them up, we'd hit that watermelon field up and bring watermelon back to the patrol base and crack those open. And they had this little 8-year-old girl, and they stayed in the same compound as us. They didn't want to leave. But when we would come back, she had a little fire going with like an upside down bowl, and she was cooking pita bread on it. And she'd cook it, and she'd see you come in, and she'd fire her stuff up, and she'd be cooking bread, and she'd throw them to you like a Frisbee. As soon as it would come up, she'd throw it to a Marine, throw another piece of bread on. And
that's pretty adorable.
Yeah, and the kids there were, just like we said before, everybody gets fucked up by war, but the smiles that come to my face are from the children who were just otherwise stuck in a bad spot, but they were always innocent. They had innocence about them.
Yeah. So speaking of the civilian component to that, I know a lot of them were forcibly stuck there, the way that the Taliban would kind of leverage them. But were there other instances, was the civilian populace there significant? Or what kind of numbers in the areas that you guys kept going into? Was it a lot of a mix of civilians and Taliban?
No, I wouldn't say so. We did the leaflet campaign just like they did in Fallujah before we came in, basically dropping shit saying, get out, go coil up in the desert. And they listened. They went out. And most of the people in the invasion weren't there. It was, if you seen somebody, they were trying to shoot at us or blow us up. So that made things easy.
So, like in the instance of this 8-year-old girl, like where the fuck were her parents?
No, her dad was right there.
Oh, okay.
Her dad was in there. I don't know. It's very strange to see only one child.
Yeah.
But in that instance, it was her and her dad that lived there.
And that's it.
And I don't remember seeing any other kids at that one. And they, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I wasn't there. I didn't stay there a long time. We like peeled to her shit, or to her building, and we set up an OP. That was 5 days. So
Yeah,
I don't know
gotcha.
where for the other, you know.
What was the dad doing for that 5 days?
He would help us, you know. He would, you know, whether he wanted to or not, I don't know. But
Yeah.
she seemed to not have a problem, which means to me that her dad probably wasn't talking shit about us when we weren't there.
Yeah.
He was probably okay with it. You know, a lot of people there were just damned. They were just stuck. But I met my fair share of, you know, civilian population that said that they liked the Taliban better than all this fighting, because at least with the Taliban, even though they were brutal, there wasn't bombs dropped out of the sky, and they didn't have to worry about where IEDs were, because those wouldn't be here if the Taliban was just running shit and we weren't here.
Yeah.
And so that's like, you got to, okay, yeah, that's, you know, you get something to think about. Like, if we weren't here, would they be even experiencing? And then like the question comes to mind, do oppressed people know that they're oppressed always? We might think they're oppressed, but if their life is farming and goats and...
Yeah, if they like how their life is, leave them the fuck alone. I mean, that's my take. The tough part is, you know, with Afghanistan in particular, I think the tough part is they harbored the terrorist unit and allowed them to attack America on 9/11. And so, like, you don't get a pass.
No.
You know, period.
Yeah.
The dicey part, I think, is, and I think like any combat veteran over the last fucking 25 years, I would say in most cases kind of tends to struggle with this, is where do you draw that line of enough is enough, and how far do you go with it, and how long, and to what extent, and it's like there's no fucking right answer.
As far as war goes, I think that if you're going to go to war as the United States of America, you should do your best to go at war with a country. Going to war with terrorism is 20 years long, and you didn't accomplish anything, best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
Just made more terrorists. You go to war with a country, you can bring country and its proxies to its fucking knees quick.
Yeah.
But if again, going back to Iran, if Iran never feels the heat because we are hitting proxies in the terrorist realm,
they're never going to get
they're
the fuck.
never going to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right. So that the remaining of that deployment was all kind of organized in that 3-tiered system.
yes, sir. Yeah.
Are there any other operations that stand out during the remainder of that either went exceptionally well or horribly wrong?
Everything went pretty good. I mean, yes, there were other times where we're fighting 6-7 hours at a time. Things went well. There were big operations, and we got very good by the time those came. And so we were a well-oiled machine. When some of the bigger things took place, like that 5-day war, for instance, we didn't lose anybody, and we fucked up a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of their resource network, a lot of their rat lines. And we were taking fire the whole time. Like, it was a fight, but we got very good as a squad, and then ultimately as a platoon. We got very good with all of that. One thing that stands out to me isn't even combat, but I think it's necessary to be told. When we left, I was remained behind with key leaders to do the left and right seat rip, and relief in place transition of authorities, what we called a rip toe. And so on the right side of that, right before I leave, is me just going out with their squad. On the front side, it's their squad that are going out with my squad. So me and my lieutenant go on this last patrol, and then we're leaving the next morning. We leave, and when we leave, we get to the wire at just the right time that there's only like 20 minutes left before the chow hall closes. And we've been talking about these chili cheese burritos for like 48 hours, me and LT. Got to get there. We're going to get that chili cheese burrito. We ain't had nothing but rations and strike meals for however long. The occasional halal goat, but not often. And we land, we get there. We had just enough time to drop, stage our gear, and literally run to the chow hall. Now, the last big thing I did was on that 5-day war. And on that, or just before the 5-day war, I had a fireman carry a downed ANA soldier to a bird, and he was hitting the femoral and in the shoulder. So he's fucked up real bad, and he's blowing blood, you know. And I got it in my face, on my beard, down my clothes, in my boots. And anybody that's ever had blood stained on their shit knows that it doesn't dry red. Kind of looks like mud or brown, hardish, you know, darker maroon color, whatever. So I tell you that to tell you this. I had already staged my gear because I was leaving later than my main element. So all my new my good camis, non-bloody shit was gone. So we sprint to this chow hall. I'm not even thinking about all that. Get in the chow hall. We're at the end of the line, and there's a master sergeant and like a master guns or a first sergeant in front of me and LT in the line. And we're just happy we're about to get a burrito, right? And motherfucker turns around and he goes, "You stink, Marine. And don't you think you could have washed your mud off your camis before you came up into my chow hall?" And that was not a good situation. Like, I flipped my gun off safe. My LT heard it.
Jesus
He's
Christ.
like, "You go over there. You, Master Sergeant, come," and he just fucking berates him. "You think it's fucking mud?" This, that, and the other thing. Of course, they're wearing pressed, starched fucking,
creased fucking
Marpat, and I got blood on my frog outfit.
Yeah.
And I would just say to any of you out there, no matter how far you get removed from the guys doing work on the ground, remember that they're doing something different than you, and just have a little humility and a little bass about you when you have those guys come into the chow hall, or you see them, or they smell to you, because their job is a bit different.
Realize that the chow hall exists for those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, at its root level. Other than the 5-day war, in that entire rest of the deployment, is there one gunfight that stands out as being the most kind of spectacular from an intensity standpoint that you can share it in a high detail level?
Yeah, I could pick one. Okay, so again, one of the leading up to the 5-day war, why we would go up to that spot, we had several instances of really getting after it. And at that time, near like a lot of the canals, they had a lot of foliage, a lot of green. It's not, you don't just see desert, right? So you have to break that up a bit. And so we did. We would get in there, we would get close to the foliage, we'd get all the way into the canal systems and such, but you would just feel it coming about you. After a while, you just know when you're going to get hit. You can tell by the atmospherics, around you. And I remember one day we were going up there, and I kind of popped out, and their roads are real small, real skinny in that area, like moped or 3-wheeler skinny, canals on both sides. And we were moving through this whole area just trying to get a scope on it. It was when we first kind of got into that area, once we were in 5 Points. It's my first couple of times going northeast and trying to figure out what was going on. And because of the density of the foliage, your contact's going to be a whole lot closer then, right? And that's what happened. We came up to it. I was kind of popping the road and looking down whatever direction that was to my left, and I could see guys on phones like this, and just, in the eyes, like they're watching and reporting on me. And it's like, all right, hey, everybody stay frosty. These guys are right down here. And at the time, we weren't allowed to shoot them for that. Later, it became ROE change that if you had somebody actively spotting you or passively spotting you, could drop them. And at that time, it wasn't that way. So I remember kind of looking out. I called Grimes up. He's got a saw gut with him, but he's a team leader at that point. And I say, make your way across, set your saw up right on these guys, and as soon as this opens up, I want you to cut them in half. And he's like, Roger that. So he runs across, and I kind of expected somebody to shoot at him when he ran across. And I told him that. He gets across, scurries up, he gets the saw on the tall part of the bipods, and he's just aimed in on these guys. I look back at my team leader, Charette, and I said, hey, when this goes down, I want 203s raining in that courtyard. Because he could see it too. He's like, I got you. And so we got a couple 203s up there, got saw on the ground. And I called up the command like, hey, this is about to go down, you know, and we had on-call targets up here. Get ready to spin these Alpha Bravo, whatever fucking target it was up. So everybody's just kind of waiting on it. And it was like 2-3 people cross the road before it fucking opens up. And as soon as it opens up, boom, 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 40 mics are coming in. He's fucking wrecked those guys on the road that were kind of peeking and popping. And then that firefight went on for, you know, a little while. I don't know hours wise, maybe a couple, but it was cat and mouse down this canal system with them. And it was closer because of the foliage, right? And we had the Mark 34, I believe. It's a 40 mic six shooter, essentially. We had guys carrying those, so we were able to really put out some explosives over on them, and then call in some 60s. We always travel with 60s in the handheld traditional mode. So if we had a patrol base out there and we're leaving that patrol base, we had 60s at the patrol base that could come right over top of us.
You're talking about Hilo 60s?
No, 60 millimeter mortars.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. We'd have a 60 crew wherever we were at that would set up and then just handheld dump some HE to us.
Do you know ballpark what the maximum effective range is of those as far as
3 clicks maybe?
Okay.
Something like that.
So they can stay far enough away to where they're out of it, but you can call them in pretty quick.
Yeah. One thing to note on that, and this is kind of the tail end of this story, as we fight with this group, we have another squad that's kind of like come out to help canalize that group and put them down. We run a little low on ammo. We've been out 4.5 hours. They start to get a handle on the situation, so we RTB to the patrol base. Now we're at the patrol base, and they're fucking them up. JT squad, they're up there doing work, kind of finishing our work. And so we have the 60s there. And so a guy is squirting out of that fight, an enemy soldier squirting out of that fight with an 82 millimeter mortar system on the back of a moped. And as he's squirting out, we see it, and this road is long, and you can only go so fast on a moped, right? And our 60 millimeter guys set this up in the handheld. They used a machine gunner's arm like this over the courtyard wall as their aiming stake. I shit you not, and another Marine from this far corner of the courtyard was walking the same speed as the guy was traveling.
Holy shit.
And so he took those two things, he calculated his flight time, boom, and the guy disappeared in a plume.
Oh, shit.
I talk about it in the book in a little more detail, but the best mortar shot I've ever seen.
So you got Kentucky windage and you got Marja windage.
Yeah, no,
right?
that's it. And just a lot of luck, I think.
That's awesome, man. That's such ingenuity. I love it.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah. As that deployment wraps up, it sounds like you didn't lose anybody else.
No, I mean, there was guys that I think we had 13, and then we had a lot of Purple Hearts and guys get, scuffed some wounds, but yeah, we fared way better than the replacement that replaced us 7 months, and went 7 months. So we did good.
Yeah. When you came home from that deployment, what was your head at as far as staying in, getting out, and what you'd been through?
I was staying in. I was shook up. There's things that I took away from that deployment, psychological, maybe wounds, you could say. I spent the next couple of years trying to figure that out. But I became a SOI instructor at ITB, Infantry Training Battalion, and then tried to go to A&S, like I told you. From there, that's when they found both my eardrums had been ruptured. They found some brain injuries, and ultimately, my service came to an end the last day of 2014. They retired me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that internally, being retired and things not panning out quite how you wanted?
Super bad.
Yeah.
Super bad.
How did you deal with it?
Drank, try to numb myself. All my friends are still deploying. How do you do that? Being on that side of it was rough.
Did you drink every day?
Oh yeah, I was an alcoholic. I had a Rubbermaid bucket in my garage full of ice and liquor and beer, and it's just not the way. I'm very adamantly not for alcohol anymore. I had some inpatient time in Laurel Ridge right before before my boy was born. I volunteered to go out there because I knew I was struggling with the Weimar incident and a couple of other things that I was having trouble putting behind me. And I tried to go to, to therapy, but in the infantry, if you go to therapy, you get a black X put on you, and the command thinks you're damaged, and I think it's bullshit. And you can still get help and then go back and do work. And I think we're past that a little bit now. But at the time that was the way it was. So
What were those couple other things other than the Weimar incident?
Kid situations, one old woman that made me be a man of my word. Her sons were Taliban. She had weapons in her house. And then I got lit up leaving there, and I told her what I was going to do, and then I did that.
Time, you've been through a lot. You're in Hawaii. You go through withdrawals of coming down off of opioids. You're still dabbling in booze and other prescription stuff. Growing up and up until and going through all this, was religion ever a component that you ever turned to, thought of, turned your back on, or considered at all?
I've always connected with the higher power, forever. And even during this time in Hawaii, I was having like a religious experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something weird happened out there actually, where I was taken to the Book of Enoch, and like I don't know if I was losing my mind or something was happening, but I've always felt a very strong connection and understanding of higher consciousness, God, and I'm 100% on board. And I knew I wasn't living right, but I felt like I had to be on this path or something. And I knew I needed to unfuck myself too. That was also part of it. That's what I was being told. Listen, you need to unfuck yourself and go in the French Foreign Legion. And I truly believe that that's a God experience, because I wasn't the master of that. I was not the intelligent piece in that decision.
So once you made that decision, was it like clear cut, like fuck, ditch everything and
4 days later I was in France.
Oh shit.
Like, I had my truck and stuff, and I just keep this, I'll see you in 3 years type thing, and put my stuff and boom.
In storage? Or
I
what?
took, with like a friend there, hey, keep my truck, I'll pay you to kind of keep this going. And I organized my affairs. I had no money, so I took a couple fast cash loans, like 500 fast cash loans. I was like, I'll pay this back later.
Yeah.
It cost me probably $8,000, right? And then I hopped a plane, man, and went to France.
Did you have any contact with any recruiters or?
They don't exist. There's one way to do it. So you go to two of the pre-selection centers and knock on the fucking door.
Really?
That's it.
There's no call, no online,
Nope.
no email. You
Nope.
just show up.
It's old school.
No shit.
That's how it's been for 200 years, and they keep it like that. And I'm talking, you go to the gate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you knock on that gate on Christmas morning, they'll open it.
No shit.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
Powerful, bro. Powerful. So I land in France. It's raining. I just come from Hawaii. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here, man? It's freezing. It's freezing. I can't believe I'm doing this. I got no money, so I go to the shittiest hostel I could find in Paris. Mm-hmm. And I knew I couldn't go right away because I had drugs in my system. I had Adderall and amphetamines and weed and everything else. I was like, they're going to drug test me. It's the military. I knew in my experience, I can clear my system in about 3 or 4 days, right? If I just kind of. So that's what I did. And I just cut everything. Pound water, was going on runs and sprints, and I ran up to the Sacre-Cœur church. It's the Sacred Heart on top. It's an old school church, man. Badass. Bricks from like the 1600s in the middle of Paris. And man, I said a prayer, bro. I said, just look out for me, man. I said, I'll do this. Just look out for I get the chills, man, talking about it. And I was at a low point. And the night before I was like, I'll go on the Hunter's full moon, the red big ass moon. On a Sunday night, it was raining, and I brought my DD-214. They knew I was going to let them know who I was coming to the gate, and I went and knocked, man.
Who answered the door?
And a Mexican guy, it's a Legionnaire is going to answer it because they keep gate secure. The Legion outsources nothing, so their own security is Legionnaires, and it's 24-hour rotations. And so a guy with a green beret and a FAMAS, man, knocked at a guy from Mexico, opened the door. I said, je suis ici pour la Légion, which, I Googled right before I went in there. And he said, all right, give me your passport. And that's how it goes. And I didn't see that. I didn't see that passport again for 2.5 years.
Yeah, because that's part of the gig, right? You basically you're kind of turning yourself over to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so then it's wait here, a guy who's speaking French and a Russian accent will come and get you, and then walked me back and then told me get on the pull-up bar. It was the first thing.
Really, right away.
Right away. Yeah. That's the first thing they do.
Did you speak any French other than what you Googled before showing up there?
Oui. That's it.
So, I mean, you speak it fluent now, right? Or pretty close?
It's my accent's dog shit.
Yeah.
But I can get by enough to be dangerous. Yeah. Because everything's in French.
So I'm assuming that, is it a requirement or is it just like, you better figure it out?
It's trial by fire. Like, it's a full immersion. The French Foreign Legion's extreme immersion.
I mean, how do you do that? I mean,
it's slow, and I'm still learning. French is hard, and our accent as Americans is brutal.
Yeah. We
butcher the French language, but you're constantly bombarded by it.
I mean, trying to think of, a military outfit. Now, granted, the training and experience that you have going into it puts you in a totally different category. But even still, like I try to imagine, a German GSG-9 guy that speaks no English that says, hey, I want to join the fucking SEAL teams, and you're trying to explain shit in English. Like, how does that even fucking work?
The Legion's been doing it for so many years that they have like a pretty good system.
I mean, so they are teaching you.
So you have French classes.
Okay.
And they're minimal though. Most of it's just on the go, OT, on the job. Legion French is simple, right? It's stripped down. It's very Spartan.
It's like prisoner handling commands.
It's Spartan French.
Yeah.
Like even the French go, it's Legion French. That's what they call it,
Gotcha.
So it's like a mix of other countries' words. There's like some Polish words in there and things and
slang and shit.
Yeah, a lot of slang.
Wow. All right. So the first thing you go on the pull-up bar. Can you walk us through, like, from an experience standpoint, like, what did it look like walking through the door? What did it smell like?
So it's like an old medieval castle. That's what the bricks. Picture an old medieval castle. That's the gate. Big ironwood gate. You go in, and then there's an open middle courtyard area, and they walk you way back, and then you're in another old school medieval looking barracks building. And in that is now you're in a kind of an office environment. It's, pretty stark military French Foreign Legion office, but you're in there. Pull-up bar was right in the middle of the hallway. And this was at Fort Nogent in Paris specifically. So, right. And then down the hallway are guys who are still waiting, and you're in civilian clothes at this point. It's not militant. You're not in the French Foreign Legion yet. You haven't been pre-selected. So pull-up bars, then they give you an IQ test immediately. A very simple IQ test.
Did you know how many pull-ups you had to do, or they just say do pull-ups?
They just said do pull-ups. I think I busted out about 20, pretty good ones, but I think they get you by on 10.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So he says get on the bar, you do 10 pull-ups?
I just cranked out 20. He said hop off, you're good.
And then from there he takes you to the IQ test.
Yeah. And then this is Sunday night too. This is like 9 o'clock at night. So he's just kind of running me through, checks my bag, took any property that I couldn't have, and then gives me kind of what I could. You're coming in there with shower shoes, stuff, because they're not giving you anything yet. You're going in there, and on their website, they say, bring this stuff. So that's what they do have. Bring this stuff. Don't bring anything more, nothing less. Then they give you just a real basic, bare bones, 2 + 2 is 4, and, this is a square, and this go that.
Is that in French?
That's all in, if I remember right, it was more math and stuff. So it was pretty simple. And if I do remember right, it was kind of in English. Some of it was, but it was simple. That's just that initial. And then they go, okay, you're good. You're not a complete moron and you can do some pull-ups. Okay, now just go sleep it off. And then in the morning you start processing.
And so, were you with other guys that were doing the same thing?
Yeah. So you immediately, when you walk in, you're in a big barracks room packed with guys from all over the world. You heard like 40 languages in one room.
About how many dudes were there?
Probably about 60 or 70 probably in this holding pattern.
Yeah.
At this point.
Do you know about how long they collect people until they start a?
Yes. So it's kind of on a 2-week cycle.
Okay.
That's kind of, so the pre-selection takes about a week to 2 weeks to actually get pre-selected. And so the next morning, then they're going to start doing your med checks. And a lot of guys, they're strict on the teeth because they had a lot of problems with guys coming in to the French Foreign Legion to get their teeth fixed and then deserting. So France was like, no more of that. So they're strict on the teeth. They're strict on the feet. They're strict on and their legs, like your shape of your leg, your body shape is important to the Legion and your BMI.
Really? Mm-hmm. Did you have the caps on your lower teeth when you showed up?
No.
So they did that?
No, I did it later as an upgrade.
I got you. I mean, is it purely cosmetic or is it?
Well, I had chipped a couple on the bottom, and I asked the dentist in Turkey. I was like, "Hey, man, how do I just make this not happen anymore?" And he's because I had really good teeth. He's like, "Well, what do I do?" I said, "Can you put some metal down there, man?" And he's like, "We can if you got the money." I said, "I got the money. Let's rock and roll." He's like, "You sure?" I said, "Absolutely, man."
In Turkey.
Yeah.
Fucking Christ. This fucking stories you have. All right, so back to the pre-selection. It's about 60 dudes, 40 different languages ish. Were there any? There's got to be some peacock feathers, fucking eyeballing, sizing each other up. What was that like? So you got You got to remember the mafia groups. So you got language is important.
Yeah. And nobody's speaking French, so you got a lot of guys from Ukraine. Like 10% of the French Foreign Legion's Ukraine. You guys from Ukraine, yeah. So it's a big percentage.
Do you know why?
You got a lot of Nepalese. They make shit money in their military.
Yeah.
So they're like doubling their pay, tripling their pay just by going. And also guys from Belarus. So you got the Russian speakers, the Eastern Bloc guys. Then you got the English speakers that are scattered. You got guys from UK, guys from, very few from the United States or Canada, very few. A lot from Nepal also, because their Gurkha selection is so difficult that the guys don't get through, that they come to the Foreign Legion. And those are and Brazilians. That's kind of the bigger groups.
Really?
So, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, and English.
Were there any other Americans when you were there?
One cycled through. Nobody got selected, though, just me.
Yeah. What was his story? Did you talk to him much?
Yeah. He had a felony gun charge that he couldn't get in the military in the United States.
Oh, okay. So he hadn't been in the military?
No.
Man, that's wild. So in that, I guess, concoction of different dudes, where's the strangest place of anybody that you met being from?
Mongolia came on my radar a little bit more than it normally had.
Really?
Yeah, so you got those Genghis Khan cats, and they're tough, man. The Mongolians are no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's some wild shit. So
that language is like heavy too, man.
Yeah.
Mongolians like hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what way?
It's that like what are those ogres in Star Wars or whatever? That's like it's hardcore. That's what it sounds like.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a trip. All right, so you're in this group pre-selection. You said it lasts about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, so you'll go to another IQ test, and then the interview process in the selection Legion is the most important. Every interview, that's where most guys get chopped. And why are you here? That's like, why is the Navy SEAL fucking here? They don't want issues with the United States government. That was also another piece that I started to read in more. So they're really like, what's going on with you? Like and so I explained, I could lean into the truth. I'm like, my fucking ruined my whole life and I need a second chance. That's what I told them, man. Yeah. And so they were like, okay, it kind of makes sense, you know.
They're interviewing you in English, I assume?
Yeah. So they have a guy that speaks like 5 languages, a Legionnaire, and he'll ask you in English.
Yeah. What other things did they ask you?
Do you understand this is 5 years? Do you understand you're going to lose your name? Do you understand you're not going to go back home for a long time? Do you understand you could die? Here's what happens if you die. Here's what happens to your body. They go into that process. They're just making sure you understand what the deal is and that what the reality is. I didn't go into the Legion with some romantic notion of, I'd been in the military. I knew what the deal was. I knew even as a SEAL, things aren't romantic, right? And so it was good and bad. My perspective, I needed the Legion as a vehicle to burn some time. I wanted to finish my tattoos and not get fucked with. I had a vision for my body, and I also needed it as a vehicle for self-development. I knew I needed to mature, and I needed some fucking quiet and separation. And so that's what I was like, I need to be here, man. And if I can deploy and they give me a gun in between that, great.
So it's almost like a self-imposed, all-encompassing rehab almost.
It was like I looked at it as like a prison sentence, man. Yeah. I was just like, I needed I didn't care how hard it was, what was going to happen. I'm like, I am going to be here and just, I need to I need to think.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't thought about my own thoughts, and I knew I needed to start unlearn some shit.
Yeah.
Because I can't, whatever I'm doing is not working. Because this revolving self-sabotage that was since I was in high school. So I'm like not living right. And I knew I needed to go in there for that.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, like a self-imposed hard reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was well said.
Yeah.
Yep.
So during this process, obviously the interviews are important. They're doing medical checks. I'm assuming they're piss testing you and all that shit. Are they doing like x-rays to make sure your joints aren't fucked and all that?
Yeah, the doctors are giving you a pretty good, thorough one once over.
Were there any other physical tests that they did?
Yeah, so after you pass all that stuff, they send you to a shuttle run beep test and pull-ups, push-ups, all that stuff. Some guys got chopped for the beep test because they went full tilt and burned out. It was okay though. You know, I hadn't run in a while. I'd started to train for like a few days before, and I was like, I'm not ready, but we have got to go, so let's figure it out live.
Man, how are they treating you at that point? Is it very boot camp like?
No, it's very casual at this point because you're still in civilian clothes.
Oh, okay.
Guys are dressed like this, waiting, because if you get chopped in the pre-selection, I mean, guys come from the middle of the jungle in South America and show up to the French Orly. They go a boat to a plane to a train, and then they go fail the pull-ups. And then they get sent back. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. But you don't get any money, nothing. They just tell you to leave during the pre-selection part.
I gotcha. I'm assuming they're feeding you though.
Yes, minimal. Some guys straight quit the minute they saw the first meal.
Really?
Baguette with like one thing of bologna, and that's it. The French don't get a lot of they don't eat a lot of calories, man. Yeah.
Fuck, man.
And for breakfast it's black coffee and bread, hard bread.
That's it. They
don't do the protein in the morning. All through your whole career.
Really?
Ever. Yeah, they do not eat breakfast. So that was rough, man. The gains were not to be had.
Yeah, fucking on cutting phase. Yeah. Man. So, all right. So there's the week and a half, there's physical tests, psychological tests, medical tests, treating you like a civilian or pretty casual, laid back. That group of 60-ish so dudes, at the end of pre-selection, how many were selected to go into?
So they'll pick about half. And during this period, it's weird, when you pass that IQ test, they hand you a sticky note, like no shit sticky note. And it's got a completely different name on it and a completely different date of birth. And they go, that's you now.
Really?
Mine was Trent Clayson.
No shit.
I got hooked up on the name, man. I was like, man, this dude got from Montana. Where's this guy from? It's your same initials and it's your date of birth plus a month and a day. That's how they do it in the computer system.
Wow. And is that just for ambiguity?
It's some heritage. I don't know exactly why. I don't know if they're continuing to do it or if you have the choice now. But some guys like want to ditch their whole old life.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, but after a couple of years, you can route up some paperwork a little higher, and then you get your passport and your name back and stuff.
If you don't do that, I mean, let's say you're one of those guys that wants to disappear and become somebody else, you can do that there?
They give you a European social security number. You can get French citizenship and you become that person.
Really?
Yep.
Dude, knowing that, there's got to be, when you talk about, mafia guys or whatever, like there's got to be some dudes that
absolutely
WITSEC wise are like, fuck, this is how I'm.
I know a couple of them.
Dude, you probably don't want to share why they're there.
Man, dude, it's everything on the side. I'll say what the Legion's very strict on. Like if you're coming in on a sexual crime, absolutely no go. Yeah. Like things like that, they're like.
And they'll know like from a.
Because they do Interpol. Yeah, they do Interpol, and they don't want international arms trafficking issues or drug. They don't want that Interpol deal. But Interpol has come to the gate at Foreign Legion regiments, and they told them to fuck off. It has happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So have they come there and be like, give us this dude, and they turn him over? Or they're
No,
like, no, once they're
they
there.
protected guys before.
Really?
Yeah, they told the Interpol to fuck off.
Wow. Man, that's a trip. Can you say what the guys did to why they wanted to disappear and become somebody else?
Some guys are just so hurt from their old life. It's actually more that. Yeah. They want to be done with a divorce and an old lost love, and they ruin their whole life. You know, they just want to restart.
Yeah. In terms of pay, when after that pre-selection they say, okay, you're in, I'm assuming that's once you start getting paid.
Yes. So, and then it's, you know, a little bit, it's only like 20 euros a day or something because you're not selected yet. You go pre-selection and then you go to selection.
How did they inform you that you made pre-selection?
When you get that name.
Oh, okay. So, hey,
Yep.
you made it.
Yep.
Okay. So then you go to selection.
Yeah. And then they put you on a bus, they group you up, they put you on a bus to a train, and then you're going down South France to Oban, the selection center, which is the headquarter regiment.
Okay. And at this point, you're still in civilian clothes.
You're still in civilian clothes at this point, yeah.
Okay. Once you check in there, now is it fucking...
Now the heat starts to get turned up a little bit. They're giving you like a jumper, military, like a sport clothes. Now you're kind of hustling around a little bit more. Now you're a little bit more, they're indoctrinating you in. You're still waiting around, but then you're going to go through that same battery of tests again, this time a little bit more in depth. You're going to do the psychological evaluation. The IQ tests are a little harder, a little longer. And then you go to the famous Gestapo interviews, they call them, which is like the Legion, DPLE, like NCIS, and they do a full interrogation on you. Mine was, most of them are like a couple hours. Mine was 4 days, 8 hours. Dead serious.
Shit.
I got all the love, man.
Jesus.
They didn't know why the fuck I was there. They wanted to really dig into me. And I understand.
Yeah. I mean, was there any angle of them being like, are you a fucking spy?
I think it wasn't that so much. It was that they thought I was lying. You know, they're like, why would you come say? I'm like, man, I got fucking kicked out, man. You know, it was.
So you told them I got booted for steroids.
I told them the whole deal. They just thought there was more to it than that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Is there a craziest thing that they asked you or assumed? Or
man, they pulled up some stuff from my background that I have no idea where they pulled pictures up that I have never even seen before.
Really?
Yeah. So they did their due diligence.
Like what pictures from what?
Some pictures from some stuff in the cannabis industry, but like stuff I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're like, why didn't you tell us you did this? Because I told them I'd never done drugs in my life. And they're like, holding the bundle of weed. They're like, what's this about?
Yeah. Oh, I can. Yeah. No, what happened was, Jesus.
That's photoshopped.
Yeah. Man, were there any close calls during that process of them almost kicking you out, or it seeming like they were?
I was pretty concerned because I knew I had nothing, man. I was really like selling myself to them. I was like, let's just give me a chance to get in here and I'll be a good soldier for you.
Yeah. What I'm assuming that if they cut you at that point, it's just put you on a bus back to where.
Yeah, they give you your passport back, give you $200, and don't let the gate hit you on the ass on the way out. That's how it works for those guys.
Oh. And once you got to selection, that same group that you were with, I mean, how many guys made it through?
So to give you an overall number, average, a guy who comes and knocks on the gate, 1 out of 15 gets selected.
Okay.
To give you like the whole, during this first week, then that selection takes about, so that whole process takes a month, 1 out of 15.
So the first pre-selection is a week and a half, then the selection is another three weeks or so.
And you're doing some more physical tests. You're swimming. Dude, the part of the reason I got picked up is because fucking all the guys that come to the Legion can't swim, man. Yeah. All the Africans and stuff are going at the bottom of the pool. These guys just haven't swum in their life. Yeah. I smoke checked it. So the guy's like, who the fuck's that guy? It racked me up high on the list because the guy who was actually the kind of the master chief of that cell was like big on the pool. Yeah. Like he was a professional boxer. There's some athletes, man, from all around the world, some really savage studs that their countries just don't offer what they want. And so they find it in the Legion. But he was like, hey man, what's your deal? Okay. And then he got me racked up.
Yeah. Wow. Speaking of kind of that same vein, the instructor staff or cadre that's administering all of this, they're all Legionnaire guys.
Yep.
Are they further on in their career where it's kind of like a buds instructor? It's like a twilight.
They're all
kind of
they're like 20 years in, all of them.
Yeah. Were some of them pretty fucking impressive physically?
Yeah. There's some guys that were really good. Running is majorly important. Just in the French military in general, after working with a lot of French, the running and the being able to travel long distances, light, is major. The different philosophy, right?
Yeah. All right. So how did they inform you once you went through all this stuff? Two things. How did they inform you? And also, is the food any better at that point, or
no? It's still pretty
Spartan.
Spartan, yeah, and it stays Spartan in France. That's just how the Legionnaires are allocated less food than the normal French army.
Really?
Less money per meal. So your stuff's just redheaded stepchild, man, of the French military. It's getting better though because it's getting more incorporated. The history of the Legion's pretty interesting with that. They tried to kill the French president one time. That didn't help. Because they pulled out Algeria and a bunch of guys were pissed about it. After it's kind of like what we talked about, and they had some vested emotional interest, and a group of parachute regiment guys tried to kill the French president.
Holy shit!
Yes.
What year was that?
1962, I think.
Wow.
So during how they call you out is one day they go selection call outs, who's getting selected, and they just call your name, and the guys who don't get called go home.
It's just that simple.
Yep.
Yeah. So they call your name, and then what?
It's immediately to gear issue. It's immediately to gear issue all your basic essentials for boot camp. Basic Army infantry boot camp.
So all the Legionnaires go through basic Army boot camp?
Yep.
Really? With guys that aren't in the Legion?
No, it's Legion Army boot camp, but it is just a basic Army boot camp.
So it's the same as if you were a French citizen joining the regular Army, it would be.
It's much harder.
Okay.
Like it's much more rustic in French, a lot more rustic and more, because immediately after you get your gear issue, they take you to Castelnaudary, and because you spent a week doing some indoctrination, right? Now you're in fatigues. Now you're starting to kind of be held to a different standard. They send you to Castelnaudary, which is near the French Pyrenees, near the Spanish border. That's where all instruction takes place for the French Foreign Legion, that regiment.
Okay.
4th Ray, 4th Foreign Regiment.
And how long is that process?
That's going to be a 4-month boot camp. The first month you're there, you go to a place called the Farm, and it's a fucking farm.
Yeah.
In the mountains. That's unique about the Legion. Like when they give you a FAMAS immediately, you're doing weapons manipulation like day one, and you stay with that thing, and you're living in a farm. Like out in a cot, and you're not in like a boot camp building for the first month. And then you do your Kepi Blanc march back, which is that white. You get 60 kilometers back to the deal after the month. And man, we've been cold in buds, right? I was so fucking cold at that farm. I don't remember being that cold, man, because you couldn't escape it. You don't have the gear, right? And then it was wintertime. I was like, damn, bro. Some of those kids from Tahiti were dying, dude. Seriously, man.
Fuck. So you're sleeping on a cot with basically nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you showering?
They let you shower like once every couple of days in the cold water.
Yeah. So pretty bare bones.
Yeah.
Then, huh? And how many of you are there in this?
50 dudes.
50 dudes. Mm-hmm. How many of you guys made it?
So at this point, most of the attrition is quitting.
Okay.
They demand civil. They demand to go civilian. And you do have those guys. It's less failures and more psychological. And man, my psychology at this point, what did I do? What did I do, man? I knew I had to be there and I wasn't going to quit. It's just not how we roll, right, Mike? And so I was like, I got to stay here, man, and do this. But I was 34 at the time. Yeah. So I'm 34 going through fucking boot camp with kids that are 17. Yeah. And
they're dudes that young?
You can come in at 17 and a half. Wow. 17 to 39 and a half is the cutoff for the Legion.
And there were guys that young?
17 and a half, yep.
Wow.
And then there was guys that were 38.
Yeah.
A couple guys older than me.
Yeah. Wow. All right, so a month at a farm. And what are you doing for that month mostly?
And this was part of the psychological problem that I was. You asking me what was harder, buds or 100% buds physically and technically, but the psychological problem I was having to solve there because I'm doing shoot, move, communicate with guys who've never even been in the military.
Yeah.
and haven't been done what we after doing halos and shit. It was like a baptism in humility.
So right before I went to Yemen, March 2021, my father, addiction runs in our family. My dad was going through a lapse of addiction with methamphetamine. So he was pretty bad with drugs during that time. And the same time my sister was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So she went from 180 pounds to 80 pounds.
Holy shit.
And so she moved back home with my parents, the same place where my dad and the Boston Marathon pitcher. So it was my mom, my dad, and my sister. And I had a family talk with them. I was like, Dad, if I had to come back and save you from this, then I'm going to resign you for my whole entire life because I'm leaving. I'm point man now, so I have a big responsibility. And he said, okay, I got it. So we went to Yemen in March 2021. Yeah.
So before we get into Yemen, I'd like to take a little dive into your dad's addiction. Was that something that growing up that you ever saw or knew about? Did it happen when you were a kid?
So I wouldn't say he's a drug addict. What happens is he'll have lapses of sobriety, like 3-4 years of sobriety. And then he'll find that drug niche and he'll go on benders. So in high school, he raised me to be a baseball player. He's my coach. I quit baseball when I was 14 and it like fucking shattered his heart. And he started abusing Xanax and was fucking looped out of his mind, was showing up to my baseball games. Cops were called. My parents got in a fight. He moved out to a sober living place for a few months. And then after that, he was sober until I left for the military. And then about 2020, 2021, he started using again.
And this was meth at that point, or?
Yeah, he was using a lot, methamphetamine, Xanax, weed, all combined together.
Was the meth, was it like street meth or was it like Vyvanse, Adderall kind of prescription stuff?
It was the good old street ice.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Man, that's got to be hard to grasp and deal with as a point man and getting ready to deploy. So you had that talk with him and he said, Roger that, I'll knock it off, and he did, I assume?
No.
So
I went on deployment, was in Yemen. We were doing a lot of special reconnaissance, Overwatch, Sniper Overwatch. Ground Brain CIA was there, so we were doing some work with them, which was a great deployment. We were going out like twice a week, doing special reconnaissance type stuff. And this was like July at that time. And my sister was like, hey, Dad's getting pretty bad here. And my neighbor texted me, and he's like, I went over to your dad's house next door, and they found my sister in a pool of blood.
fuck, man.
In the bathtub. And my dad carried her out to the ambulance, and while he was high. So I think that fucked him up even more. And then she got back home, and then she asked me to come home early. And I was like, I'm a point man, my platoon. If I leave and the number 2 man comes and somebody gets killed, that's my fault. So I battled with that decision for a while. And then I asked my chief, I was like, hey, bro, I think I need to go home. And he's like, dude, go home. So I got a flight home.
Man.
Yeah.
How many months or how long were you into deployment at that point?
So March, I was on 4 months in.
4 months.
And I didn't tell my dad I was going to come home. I wanted to just surprise him to see what kind of state he was in. And flew home, and he was on a 5-day meth bender, talking to shadow people, talking fucking crazy shit. I was like, damn, my sister couldn't get out of bed because she was bedridden. And I was like, it's unsafe for you guys to be here. I'm going to get you a hotel room. So I moved them to a hotel room. And I was like, Dad, I'm going to be back in a few days. I have to check into the team. Went to the team. Was at it for 2 days. Was at a Padres game with my best friend. And then I got a FaceTime call from my neighbor. And I was like, picked up the phone. I was like, fuck. He never FaceTimes me. He's never called me. He's never done anything. And I picked up the phone, and my house was engulfed in flames. And not in the Gulf as in like this small house fire. The whole house was fucking torched. And I was like, is my fucking dad in there? So I drove home. They put the fire out, got there at like 1 a.m. And I was there by myself just looking at my house where my dad Boston Marathon, the picture, all that stuff. And I was just sitting there. I walked through the whole house where I lived. And everything was fucking torched and just carnage and everything was broken.
Was your dad inside? We can take a minute. I mean, you don't have to.
I'm good. You could send it. I don't want you guys to cut any of this. Just leave it raw. Yeah, he was inside in the smoke. And my neighbor across the street was like, Bill, get out of the house. And he's like, no, there's people in here. I need to save them. There was no one inside. He was talking to fake people. And he got smoke inhalation. And then eventually he walked out and he was like shirtless. They found paraphernalia on him. The cops came and he got arrested for felony arson. So he went to jail for a while. And my whole family was broken.
Yeah.
And I've never felt so much hatred towards my dad ever. My dad's the best human being ever. And I was so fucking mad at him. Because I was like, if I didn't come home early, my mom, my sister, and my dad all would have died in the house fire.
Yeah.
So.
That's fucking, that's heavy. Super heavy. I mean, I'm emotional hearing it, you know. I can't even imagine. So I guess from a situation standpoint, did your dad start the fire intentionally, or was it a carelessness thing, or do you know?
Well, now that the charges are done with, basically he was talking to people that weren't there for hours, like, get out of my house. He was talking to fake people. And for him, he was trying to smoke signal for help. That's how fucked up he was. And, yeah, he ended up lighting up house on fire.
Yeah. Did your mom and your sister, well, I guess taking one step back, the incident where your sister was in a pool of her own blood, she survived. What was the blood? Was it an intentional suicide attempt, or was there a medical issue?
So she had Crohn's disease, and you start bleeding uncontrollably.
Oh, okay.
So her blood count was super low, and she was just laying in the bathtub. She basically had no pulse, and she was dead.
Yeah. Wow.
And then she ended up surviving, and then went back to the house.
Yeah. So not long before that, you had put your mom and sister in a hotel. Did you contact them to tell them what had happened, or did they already know, or what? How did that go?
I think I was the first one to tell them after my neighbor FaceTimed me, and yeah, she was just heartbroken.
During the, I guess we'll call them relapses that your father has experienced, how have you talked, or had you talked to your mom about her role, position, tolerance? I mean, I hate to even say tolerance because I know it's oversimplified by saying that, but that's kind of the reality, is that, you know, you either allow something to happen or you don't. You know, I mean, it really kind of is that black and white. And did you guys have any in-depth conversations about that and what her take on it was and what she should do or not do or any of that?
My mom's so loving and loyal. She's like the sweetest soul ever. She basically was ignoring the situation. When she was seeing the drug abuse stuff, she would just turn the blind eye. Oh, if I look over here, then it's not happening. So she was ignoring what's happening. And I was gone on deployments. I was in the SEAL teams. So I wasn't there to like be like, Mom, you need to get out of this relationship.
Yeah.
So she was ignoring the problem.
That was actually your advice to her, though, was you should leave your dad.
Not until after. I was telling her like, hey, Mom, like, open your eyes, and you can't shy away from the problems. You can't look away. The problem is still there. You have to face them head on, get into those uncomfortable talks and situations in order to grow and to get out of the bad stuff.
Yeah. You have an older brother too, right? Any conversations with him, or what, did he play any role in intervention or anything like that?
In 2019, during Thanksgiving, so years prior, him and my dad got in a fight. My brother's like the nicest guy ever. So for him to get mad.
Like a fist fight?
Yeah, they got in a fist fight, and my brother was choking him, and my mom was watching. And he thought he was going to fucking kill her. My brother's a big, strong dude. And he basically was so mad at my dad that he moved states. He moved to Utah because of how mad he was.
Yeah. You weren't there?
No, I was on deployment, or I was during ULT, but I wasn't there at the time.
Man. All right. So you walk through the house. Your dad ends up getting charged with felony arson. He goes to jail. How long did he go to jail for?
He was in jail for a couple months, and then I didn't have contact with him. I didn't want to talk to him. I fucking hated him. I was just focused on being there for my sister and my mom. And then eventually he got out of jail, and he has this cross that he's worn with him his whole life, his gold chain. And the police, when they arrested him, they took it away. And eventually I got it back, and I held on to it for a while. So he got out of jail. I was just doing jiu-jitsu. I signed up for 10th Planet Orange, and I was doing just jiu-jitsu twice a day, lifting. That's all I was doing, just to ground myself. And driving to jiu-jitsu in Orange, I have an uncle that's schizophrenic and homeless, and I saw him in a wheelchair, like on the corner of the street. I was like, fuck, uncle. Talked to him, and he's so fucked up, man. He was like raped in jail and all this stuff, schizophrenic. And then I was driving home, and I saw my dad walking to the side of the street, homeless. And he looked like terrible. He was like skinny, taking like bus rides and shit. I was like, what the fuck happened, dude? So at that point I was like, I can't abandon him, you know? So I needed to, I was like, all right, I need to help him, but I need to fix myself before I could help him.
Were you still you weren't on active duty at this point?
No, so I got out of my contract was November 2021, and the fire happened in August. My sister had a kid like 2 days after the house fire. Yeah. So he hasn't met her at that point, and it was good for my mom to have like a granddaughter, so it grounded her and gave her like that love and stuff.
Yeah.
So I see my dad homeless, and I was like, I need to help him, because he's amazing. He's an amazing person, great dad, the epitome of what a great dad is. But he just has some demons that he faces, you know. So
when you got out, October of 21 or August,
November 2021.
Okay.
But I was on. I had some leave, so I was technically out in October. Yeah.
Okay, and then October is when the fire happened.
August.
Okay.
August. Yep.
All right. So once you were actually officially out, you moved back up to Orange.
Yeah.
Where were you living at the time? Where were you guys all living?
Me, my sister, my mom, we were living in a hotel.
Okay.
And then eventually got my mom an apartment, and my dad was homeless.
Were you working any jobs at the time?
I was just doing 2-day jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
No, I had a little disability money, and then just doing 2-day jiu-jitsu.
So that basically you were putting your mom and sister up in an apartment. Were you staying there too?
Yeah, I was staying there.
So you're doing 2-a-day jiu-jitsu, and what period of time from when the house fire, the 2-day jiu-jitsu, you see your dad and decide, fuck, I gotta help him out. I gotta get him out of this rut. Was that like a 6-month period?
So just a backtrack. August, I got back from deployment. That house fire happened. I got out in October. So there's 2-month period where I was living in my truck at the team because I didn't have a house. So I was living in my truck doing 2-day jiu-jitsu. And then I would come home on the weekends and take care of my sister and mom. And then I saw my dad homeless in October, November. And then I was doing jiu-jitsu at an open mat in January. And this coach, not my coach in my gym, a different coach, he was just sitting next to me. And he just looked at me and he's like, "You all right?" I was like, not really, dude. And I had done like psilocybin stuff before that helped me. And he was like, "Have you ever heard of ayahuasca medicine?" And I was like, "I've heard of it." And he's like, "I think it would help you." And I didn't even know what the problem was. I said, "Yes, I'm in." So that's how I got introduced to psychedelic therapy.
And did you, from then until you actually did it, was that a short turnaround?
Yeah, so January, I got introduced, and then I started researching it, and then I did it in June. So about 6 months later, I did it.
And during that 6-month period, are you still just continuing to train and not from a job standpoint, not employed anywhere else?
Yeah, I wasn't employed. I was living off disability and doing 2 days, and I was competing like twice a month. Wow. Jiu-jitsu, yeah. So I got really nasty at jiu-jitsu just from training so much.
Yeah. I know one of the things that when we first kind of met and we're talking about bringing you on, you had mentioned how big of a role jiu-jitsu had played. I mean, you said it saved your life. And that's a fairly common thing. I wouldn't say that it saved my life. It absolutely fucking changed it in so many ways. It's hard to grasp. And I know people probably get tired of hearing me talk about it and other people talking about it. But it's true. It's unlike anything else I've ever done. It's such an incredible activity. It's hard to even describe it. But the disability was enough for you, your mom, and your sister all to live off of in an apartment. I mean, that to me, just as a business guy and logistically pragmatic, et cetera, that seems tough to pull off. Like, I mean, you guys eating ramen and hot dogs, and is it kind of a shithole apartment?
It was okay. My sister does well in her business. I had disability. My mom was still working, so we were able to have a roof over our head. I wasn't going out or spending money. I was basically gym membership, and then whatever my mom needed, I would help her with.
Yeah. All right, so the 6 month, you're doing 2 days jiu-jitsu, you're researching. So this is 22?
Yep, 22.
In June, you go and you do ayahuasca and ibogaine, the whole thing. Did you go down to Mexico to do it?
It was actually in Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
It was just ayahuasca 2 days.
Oh, okay.
It was at this beautiful house that they hosted at, overlooking the city with palm trees, a garden. This was like the most safe space I've ever been. It was just amazing. Yeah.
Can you walk us through that 2 day experience? To the best of your ability. I know it's a bit out of mind, so to speak, but
sure. So, before we get into that, I thought rock bottom for my dad was the house fire and seeing mom was. And 1 month before the ayahuasca, he was found naked in a liquor store, high on drugs, and they put him in a 5150-year-old. And I brought up ayahuasca. I was like, "Dad, here's some medicine I think would help you." And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Well, I can't tell someone or ask someone to do something that I haven't done." So I did it in June. It's on Friday. I get there. We do a prayer ceremony. It's 20 people in a circle with the shaman on the left playing music. There's 10 women on one side, 10 men on the other side, all having a psychedelic experience. So just one quick snippet was, I had so much hatred towards my dad. I thought I was having a stroke. That's how high my blood pressure was. I was like, I think I'm gonna fucking die right now. And I get there, closing my eyes, and all the women on one side, I thought someone turned a fan on or that they opened the door and there was a big gust of wind. So I popped my eye open. There was no fan and the door was closed. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? All the women started weeping at the same time. They were crying in unison. And I opened my eyes and I saw all their woman energy love go in the middle of the room. and I literally watched it go into my stomach, and I just saw fire and anger and hatred build up, and I looked at my neck, my head fell backwards, my eyes opened, and flamethrowers flew out of my eyes. And it was all the hatred towards my dad. And him just fucking dissipated. And I was healed just like that, from that.
And ever since, you have no hatred towards him?
Zero.
Wow.
I love him with everything.
Yeah, that's incredible. In that 6-month period from when you first saw him homeless until you did, the naked liquor store thing and the actual treatment, what were you trying to do with him? How much interaction did you have with him, and what were you trying to help him with, and how?
I didn't talk to him much. I fucking hated him. He wasn't taking any ownership of what he did. He was like, it wasn't me, it was someone else. Everyone, seeing my mom cry when I was visiting the house, I was like, how does she deserve this?
Yeah.
And my brother ran away from him. Everyone hated him. I was like, my dad's such a good person. And I was like, he doesn't deserve for his family to hate him. And he needs someone. Because he's, and he was talking about suicide on the phone with me. And like how he's going to kill himself. And then I was like, I'm here for you. I went to get lunch. And I was like, okay, I'm going to help you out. So I did the ayahuasca medicine, but there was a lapse from like November to March or so where I hated him, and then he talked about suicide.
This was after the treatment?
Right before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now coming back current to having the treatment, you dissipate all the hate and anger or discontent that you have towards him. What happened after the treatment and your interactions with him?
So another quick snippet about the ayahuasca. I've always been a believer in God. I pray every morning and night, like I said in the Bible app. And basically, I went to heaven. I was flying through a cosmic space, and there was no words being spoken. There was no people. It was just energy and love. And he just took me to this place, and I saw a figure. It was like a side profile of somebody, and I was like, where am I right now in my head? And then he started laughing at me, and I was like, what's so funny? And I was like, what place am I in? And he's like, this is where you're from, and this is where you're going to come to when you die. And I was like, and it felt like God. And he's like, I got you. Like, you don't need to worry anymore.
This is during the treatment?
Yes. And during that same time, I prayed for my dad because he was so against healing and ayahuasca. I was like, I don't want to push it on him because I don't want to force people to do something. I was like, I pray that he's open to getting treatment. So this was Saturday, the second night of ayahuasca. Monday, and I hadn't talked to him for a couple months. I was out of jiu-jitsu, and my coach looked at me and he said, did you get eye contacts? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, your eyes are a different color. Because before I had a veil of like, I was fucking dead. And he's like, dude, your eyes are glowing. I finished jiu-jitsu. My dad calls me out of the blue and he said, I'm ready to get help. So,
man, that's powerful, bro. So what did you take him to go do it?
Yeah, so I gave him information. I connected him with the shaman and took him to lunch, did monthly meetings with him. And then October, so not long, June, July, like 4 months later, he did in October 2022. Yeah.
And how were you? I mean, I'm assuming you weren't present for it, right? But you knew he was going through it, and did you take him there and help get him set up, or what?
I trusted my shaman and my coaches so much, and I was like, Dad, if I'm there with you, it's not going to be the same experience because you're there to heal yourself. And the shaman was like, yeah, I agree. So my dad went there, and I went to lunch with him the next day, and he looked at me in my eyes, and it was like my old dad was.
Yeah.
My old dad was back, and he said something to me I'll never forget. He's like, I'm 70 years old. He said, besides the birth of my children, this is the best thing you've ever done for me.
Wow. How were you feeling hearing that?
Just like this.
Yeah.
Happy.
Huge,
And,
huge weight off your shoulder.
yeah.
Yeah, it's what a story.
And he's been sober since.
Wow. No shit. And smooth sailing, everything's been great.
Not so much. So he was healed. So this is 2022. So it's been a year and a half since he hasn't even met my niece yet, his granddaughter, because everyone hates him still. So October 22, he did the medicine. November, December, I'm working with connecting my family together. And my sister, I said, are you willing to go to lunch with my dad and have him meet his granddaughter? And she said, only if you're there to like mediate it. So I went there and we walked around the park in Long Beach, and it was amazing. Like the glow in his face, like meteor.
Yeah.
And now they're talking again.
Yeah, it's incredible. How about your mom and your dad?
She, I thought I was angry, and she's married him for 40 years, so I can only imagine how she feels. So she hates him. There's this therapist that works with team guys that Mike O'Dowd connected me with. Absolute angel of a woman. And I brought up MDMA therapy to my mom, and she said, absolutely not. I don't like drugs. So I just kept slowly reaching out to her, sending her information about combat veterans and how it's helping them. And so June 2023, she said no for months and months. I'm working for 2 years trying to help heal my mom. And eventually she said, yes, I'm willing to. And so I connected her with the therapist. And this was December 2023, so not long ago, 6 months ago. She ended up backing out. And on my birthday, January 11th, 2024, the night where those Chris Chambers and Ingram were killed in the Yemen shipboarding, it was bizarre. Kristen and my mom called me at the same time, and my mom was like, I think I'm ready to get help. The same day those dudes died.
Wow. Has she followed through with it?
Yeah.
How did that go?
So I made sure to keep connecting with her because I didn't want her back out. And the week of, I sensed her being scared and not wanting to do it. I stayed up for 3 days, making sure I was always by my phone and that she would go. And then the therapist asked me to acquire letters, handwritten letters from everyone in my family talking about my mom. So I got some from my uncle. So in Boston, my uncles were doing armed robberies in Charlestown, Mass. And my uncle did 35 years in prison. And he just got out and reached me out of the blue. And I said, can you write a letter for my mom? Sure. Everyone in my family wrote a letter for my mom except for my brother. I acquired all the letters. She came to my house. I gave it to her in an envelope. Said, this is for Kristen. Make sure it's a gift for her. She didn't know about the letters, my mom. Went to San Diego with Kristen. And I was still up for 3 days. And Kristen was like, stay by your phone because I want to update you during the ceremony. And I just started melting away on the feedback I was getting.
What can I ask why your brother didn't write the letter? Was it because he was mad?
I'm still working on that because I've always been close to my brother. And January 11th, my birthday, he sent me a gift. And then he stopped talking to his whole family until he texted me yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Just out of the blue, the first time you heard from him since then?
I think he's going through a breakup or maybe some self stuff.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I wrote a post about him on my Instagram about me getting into weightlifting. And he texted me saying, why'd they take your Instagram down? And because he saw what I wrote about him. So I think that helped connect him.
Yeah. You got some heavy shit going on in your family.
Yeah.
So your mom went through the treatment, and how? What's your take? Because it was not that long ago, right?
No, this is like 3 weeks ago. She said, "I love you so much. I can't believe what you did for me. I love myself again. I'm proud of myself. I'm no longer mad." And I saw her in person. It was like, she's back.
Yeah. Wow, it must be an incredible relief.
I carry a lot of weight on my shoulders.
Yeah.
For my family. And it was like, it lifted off.
Yeah.
So he was like, "You want to go do a mission?" And I was like, "Sure." And then he was like, "Okay." And I was like, "So talk to my boss. I'll go do it." You know what I mean? And then so he talked to my boss, and then they wanted me to go out alone and find this guy, right? And then so once they kind of told me, like, they're like, "Hey, we want you to go out alone and find this guy," I didn't know I could say no. I didn't know other guys said no because it was too dangerous. I just figured, yo, this is the default. If I say no, who the fuck is going to do this? You know what I mean? Like, how do we get this, right? So I was like, well, okay, right? And I asked him at the time, I was like, tell me at least while I'm out there, you guys are going to cover my ass. You know what I mean? He looked me in the face and he was like, we'll cover your ass. And I was just like, this motherfucker just lied to me. He looked me in my eye and fucking lied to me. Like, how could you make that fucking statement? That's what I was thinking, right? I didn't say shit. I was like, all right. So like I kind of fucking hopped to Jalalabad, right? I'm in the safe houses. I got to go buy some local fucking clothes and get my fucking man and shit. You know what I mean? A day at the fucking market. So I get all my fucking shit at the market, and then I get a taxi, right? And the taxi only goes so far. So like the next day, whenever I was ready, we get a taxi and pay the taxi. Another guy, so I don't have to speak, another guy pays the taxi. Taxi takes me towards Tora Bora, dumps me when he's done driving. And then I'm just out there, and then a truck comes, and I fucking ride with people. And I did this for like, I don't know, probably about 3 or 4 days to get to where I needed to go. And I was just hitchhiking, basically. So I finally get this logging truck kind of closer than farther to this fucking forsaken place. And then I kind of get in the truck and I ride with this guy, and literally he logs the valley, so he goes up where I'm going. And I rode with him, man. And then we passed the fucking Target building. I bust out. All I had was like my clothes and a plastic Kent cigarette bag, and I had like a handy cam and a sat phone in there. So I get out the handy cam kind of under my armpit. I film the target, perfect footage, like the guy's on the porch, like couldn't have fucking went better. We pull up to this like little house at the end of the valley, and the driver does that the Muslim rite of you just got to protect me. So we go to some fucking rando house. We go in a room. We're drinking tea, right, for the night. And everyone's mad dogging me. And then they give me like the opium tea, right? So I took my go pills, right? And I just sat there awake. And then in the middle of the night, I kind of grabbed that driver fucking gunpoint, drag him back out to the truck and point the other way, man. Yeah. And then we had to go through several checkpoints. One of the checkpoints, like some fucking dude just fucking AKs me right in the chest, like la 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 la. And I knew as soon as I spoke English, I'd be shot, right? And then like, if I back up a minute, like all these checkpoints, like they would like steal fucking food from a little kid. Like if you had anything valuable, they just take it. And if you even busted out money, they just fucking shoot you and take everything you got. You know what I mean? So like, this guy's like shaking us down for some type of fucking tribute. I don't fucking got nothing for this motherfucker, but I know he's shaking me down, right? So I gave him a dirty blanket off the floor of the truck. It worked. You know what I mean? That's all we had.
You didn't say anything?
I improvised. No, I said something, right? So I figured, man, I got to get this guy off me. I got to get him his. So I acted like and I figured fucking like max level of 11 volume, right? So I just like get my head like really close to him and I'm like, no.
You simple jacked him?
Yeah. Don't go forward. Never go forward.
Holy shit, man. And so
Sean Penn, I am Sam. Went home empty-handed.
Jesus Christ. Was that the last checkpoint that you had to deal with before you got back?
Man, there was like fucking several like this. Yeah. Like I'd say there was like maybe 6 total, maybe like 3 fucking sketchy. You know what I mean? And like the Afghans at the time, like, they just put this piece of yarn between 2 rocks, like knee high. You know what I mean? Like
called it a toll booth.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you, if you don't stop for that fucking yarn, you're going to get shot with a 50 cal in the chest, the old Dajaka.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're no joke. You know what I mean? So I had to get out of the valley, right? And the thing is like as soon as I got to that house, I already knew I had mission success footage on my video camera. Yeah. Why am I wasting one more fucking second in enemy territory? Like, let's fucking go. You know what I mean? This is mission success. All I got to do is make it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we make it back, right? And then we Trojan horsed it. Like, the guys came in and I fucking rented trucks. I ended up calling him Einstein because like when he realized I wasn't Afghan and retarded and I actually spoke, but I didn't speak his language, I just started calling him Einstein because he wasn't very bright, but he was a friend, you know what I mean? So I figured at least I could do for the $37 I paid him in American money, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you have any type of American or any credentials on you identification-wise at all, or did you go totally blanked out?
Fuck, I don't remember. I think maybe my ID card in my pocket. Fuck, I don't know.
Wow.
I don't even remember.
Do you remember how much cash you brought?
What do you mean, like money?
Yeah, like to
Savage money?
I guess both. I mean, were you using American or all Savage money?
Man, I had Savage money, but like
a wad of it.
Yeah, it's fucking monopoly. Means nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I think I had like a handful of fucking whatever.
Yeah, and that was obviously enough to pay who you needed to pay.
Yeah.
At checkpoints.
Yeah, like I whipped out that wad of cash and fucking Einstein's eyes like just lit the fuck up. So I was like, okay, this might be like, I think it's only like $3 American, but like, I mean, it's by volume, it's a lot, you know?
Yeah, man. So once you made it back, did they act on it? Like, did you give them? I had
to get the assault force in,
like right away.
Well, as soon as we could do it, you know what I mean. Look, we had mission U.S. eyes on. You told us we needed U.S. eyes on. We got it. Let's hit this fucking guy now. You know what I mean?
And then you guys did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guided in I rented the trucks, same trucks. The assault force was at Bagram. They built facades for the back of the truck where if you pull it with a tarp, it looked like there was like water bottles and it was just all empty shit stapled on, clever fucking shit. Like the guys built it. So they kind of built the Trojan horse shit at Bagram. They flew to me in a C-130. I received them in the trucks. I bought like knee-high were the fucking Savage mattresses at the market, filled the trucks, 5-gallon jugs for piss. And then we loaded the trucks and then started the drive. And then I got to get the guys and all these motherfucking everything through these fucking checkpoints.
Wow.
Yeah. And the guy bribed with a blanket. I had the assault force. I bought blankets. And then when we got there, I gave blankets to all the guys. And they were like, oh, la, 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 it's cold out. You know what I mean? Like they want that blanket.
Yeah.
And then, I got through all the checkpoints, and there was a couple sketchy ones where I know the guys were in the back, were already on rock and roll, like, I'm just shooting out this fucking tarp, you know what I mean? Like, so there's a couple sketchy ones, man. It took a while. We get to the target. standard shit. And during the thing, one of the, I don't know if you've had him here, Tom Spooner, you know Tom? One of the facades smacked Tom in the nose. His fucking nose was bleeding. He comes on the truck. I was like, what the fuck happened to you? He's like, a fucking thing fell on my nose. Like, I was like, well, fucking too far to back out. You're in now. You know what I mean? Like, and then, so we hit the target, kind of, me as a sniper, I kind of sealed off like the backside. I had an AK. This was a bad idea later. Like the fucking locals tried to overrun me, so I shot a couple rounds in the air above their heads. They were starting to mass on me. And as soon as I shot with that AK, every assaulter with a laser beam is shining on, like in my direction. I'm like, yo, it's me. Turn your fucking lasers off. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? But they just heard AK fire, you know?
Yeah.
They hit the target. We got the guys. One of the guys put up a hell of a fight with a buddy of mine. He had to subdue him. You know what I mean?
So
like,
it was a capture mission.
Yeah, capture, right. And then the helicopters like came in, rooftop, fucking got the guys out, lip landing, rooftop, guys off the roof. At the same time, I brought in like a National Guard SF team that was going to exploit this site further. They got off, our guys got on. Man, that night we almost got overrun by the locals. There's like fucking 200 motherfuckers coming. Damn. So I had the gunship just fucking start shooting shit around us. And I think I was like, I called the radio. I'm like, yo, we need that gunship. You know, they're like, who is this? Right. So I had to authenticate myself. And then they're like, you know, like, how, you know, what do you need? You know, and I'm like, hey, we need to fucking keep that shit coming all night to keep the savages at bay. And I said that on the radio, right? Later, I'd go in the jock, and they had like a big sign, and it was like, keep it coming all night to keep the savages at bay, like official radio transcript party, you know? I was like, oh, I said that? That's pretty good. You know what I mean? I didn't even know at the time. And then we just started calling for fire, man, and they just started fucking shooting shit around the hills. Like, you can't sleep when they're doing that shit, you know? Yeah. And then in the morning, I had to ride out with the trucks.
So you had to drive all the way back.
I had to drive, still make it back, man.
Through all those same dicey fucking checkpoints. Yeah,
back to the Jalalabad airport, yeah.
Were any of the checkpoints on the way back, did you run into any problems with those?
Yeah, still the same fucking be clever and shit. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't there yet. You know what I mean? You might be running for the barn, but they don't know that.
Yeah. Did, I guess, why did you have to bring the trucks back and not just like burn them or fly with everybody else back?
Because I figured if anyone watched us go in, they watched us come out. You know what I'm saying? So they would have no idea who it was, why, where, and I figured if anyone was watching, you know what I mean? Like, them trucks have to come out of there.
Like if you leave them there, then you can't use that method anymore.
Because it was kind of my target, I was in charge of the guys coming in until I left as well, and then they were on their own.
Man, that's fucking crazy. You mentioned the one guy put up a hell of a fight, and one of your teammates had to subdue him. How did that go down?
Man, I don't even remember. I remember like he was first off, it was the guy was like, I think he grabbed his rifle, and he was fighting for his rifle. He went to the pistol, but as soon as he went to the pistol, the dude was all over the pistol. You know what I mean? And then he went to like his pocket knife, but it was an auto opener, and he didn't have the space for the blade to come out.
Wow.
And like he ended up like just subduing the guy, and I walked in like, what the fuck are you doing with this guy? You know what I mean? He's like, man, fuck you. Like, you know what I mean? I forget what he said, but he just had to fucking fight it out, man, just in a moment. And you know, I'm like only a second behind, but like that shit happens. You gotta be ready, you know.
Yeah. Were there instances of your entire career where you ever went hands-on with somebody like that?
Fucking nightly, man. Fighting with motherfuckers. Yeah. I tried to get more knockouts than Mike Tyson in one rotation. I figured if we're here for 120 nights, that's 120 knockouts. Mike Tyson don't even got that. I got to like 11, and then the commanders were like, why is there a guy always laying by your... I don't know what that guy... I don't know what That guy? I don't know that guy. He's a fucking terrorist. Why are you asking me? Like, and then so I only got 11.
Wow.
But nightly fighting people. I mean, no one wants to go willingly.
Yeah.
And no lady wants you to take the man in her life out of her fucking house. Like, it's ridiculous.
So you end up fighting multiple people.
Everybody, man.
At that time, were you doing ground combatives jiu-jitsu much?
Fuck yeah, man. Yeah.
And did you find yourself using that on target?
Fuck yeah, man. I used to down motherfuckers. Yeah. I used it all.
What was there a most successful submission technique that you used?
100%. So you know how like in Muay Thai you do like the leg kick, right, to the middle of the thigh, and a lot of nerves, supposed to shut it down. You know what I mean? I do that same kick to somebody's knee, and I'd either break it or knock their feet out from under them, and then I'd stand on their neck.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting.
Yeah. Game over, just like that.
Yeah, and if you're wearing slippers, great. This is going to go great for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, that's wild. From a combative standpoint, when did you start training like technical jiu-jitsu? Was it before then?
96.
No shit.
As soon as I got to the unit, they were already working with like Hoist and Horian and the Gracies, and
So you went
I kind of came in at the beginning of that shit.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so crazy story in Afghanistan. I guess going back to Iraq, not to jump around too much, but that story was phenomenal. Are there any other stories, whether it was individually? Sounds like those all kind of went off without a hitch. Were there any of the individual stories from Iraq, or any kind of unit stories where you guys did a mission together that was exceptionally memorable?
Fucking so many I can't even list. You gotta just spark that memory, man. You know what I mean? Like, dude, we did it all. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy fucking times. And like, I also feel like, don't thank me for my service. I did whatever the fuck I wanted to do, precisely when the fuck I did. You can't thank me. You know what I mean? Like, like if there was a guy not to thank, it was like, you know what I mean? Like, probably people, you know, I'm not that guy, you know?
Yeah. Are there any stories where you guys were using dogs that stand out?
Man, yeah. Like, we used to just, I mean, fuck, in the beginning of the dog program, like, fuck, man, they bit everybody, man. They bit me. They bit me several times. Like, you'd be, and like before we even went to Iraq, the dog fucking program in the team room, like, my team room, we had like a bar height, like, table in the middle of the room. Yeah. Right. And it's like, you could clean a gun on it. It had maps on it. Right. Like, it was cabinets underneath. Right. Like, and then they bring the dog in. Hey guys, gonna socialize the dog today. Hey, after a fucking week of this, everybody nuts to the fucking table. Hey, legs closed, thighs pinched together. Like, you don't want this fucking critter getting a nut. You know what I mean? Like, he'll fucking pop it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you take your hands and you're talking there. Yo, how was your weekend? The dog would come in. Everybody, fists clenched, hands either crossed or tight under the chin, and you just be like, you'd be leaning on the table like, man, so you have a good weekend? Yeah, my weekend was great. I kind of got drunk, and you're like looking at the critter, just staring at it like, we got drunk, and I'm not moving because this critter's about to bite my dick for the third time this fucking week, and they're like, hey, anyone want to go feed him? He bit me. No one wants to feed him. They bite everybody. Yeah. So I thought the beginning of that dog program was like, just, first off, love dogs, always have. I think they're value added. I love everything about dogs. I'm a dog lover. But yo, those vicious creatures, like, I don't want to get fucking bit all the time. It was kind of fucked, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
steep learning curve.
Yeah, man. And like in the beginning of Iraq, we had to figure it out. Like, some dogs don't transition from fucking the sleeve to people, you know? Like, we had a dog. I don't remember the dog's name, but like several nights in a row, the dog wouldn't bite somebody. So like I was talking to the dog handler about it, and I'm like, yeah, we'll just fucking, I'll ragdoll somebody tonight. Make sure, you know what I mean? We'll get them all fired up. I'll ragdoll some fucking savage, you know what I mean? Like, we'll get a nut shot in no time, right? Like, so anyway, we do this, right? Like, I'm shaking this guy. He lets the dog go. And like the guy backed up and he backed up over a couch and I'm trying to hold him and he's going higher. So I stepped up on the couch and the dog finally lunges for him and like gets my pant leg and misses my ankle, gets my pant leg. So then I'm like, oh shit. So I'm trying to get my ankle and my pant leg like next to the dude. And then I'm going to shove the dog on the dude. You know what I mean? And like, it didn't work. None of that worked. But like I was trying, you know what I mean? And like that dog
just wouldn't do it.
He just wouldn't bite a person. But then we had other dogs were like, walking through the western desert of Iraq, it looks like the fucking moon, and the dog's teeth are like, you're like, fucking hey, get that rifle up, boys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, love the dogs, man. Yeah. Well, yeah, I've seen so many people bit. Like I don't even know if I should brag about it, but like I've seen some shit. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that being my primary role industry-wise or work-wise, I'm always interested by it. I'm curious, from a cachet standpoint, were there a number of instances where the dogs found IEDs or things and really saved your guys' asses?
Fucking all the time, man. Them motherfuckers are amazing. Did all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we also had, my squadron, we had the first one killed on the Uday Qusay raid. You know what I mean? And guys were pissed, like, you fucking killed a dog, and it was like, my thing is like, that dog could have been a person.
Yeah.
I mean, what's worse?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, as much as we love the dog, right? Yeah. And they're like, you guys are bad dog guys. Probably. However, guess what the dog's job is? You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I mean, it's a question I get asked a lot, in being involved in a lot of the training and things of that nature. And I have the same response, is that, we do our best to mitigate all the risk that we can for them. But at the end of the day, it's a dangerous job. And if it's a question between the dog ending up dying in a mission or one of our guys, that's not even a fucking decision, Yeah. So,
yeah. Will you ever read about the Spanish conquistador dogs?
Yeah.
I mean, them fucking guys would, what's his name? Balboa had 500 kills in a battle, like 1x gold pieces based off the number of people he killed. Like, some of those dogs got slaves after battles, and those slaves would take care of the dog. Like, how crazy is this for the dogs? You know what I mean? So, like, they've been used since history. So,
I mean, since fucking Roman Empire days. And swinging the other way, like in World War II. There were instances where they would turn dogs into suicide bombers, and send them into tank tracks to blow a tank off of its fucking tracks, which is a pretty shitty fucking thing. But yeah, I mean, it's I guess going back to your experiences with him, was there a most interesting bite scenario?
I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of shit. I don't want to admit to nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I need to knock on wood here. Like, I've seen a lot of shit, but like, man, I just seen them dogs will fuck you up quick. Take a tricep off an arm super quick. You know what I mean? Like, I just seen all kinds of shit. I think it's particularly cruel when they bite the nuts, which like some dogs will do for no other reason than
because it's your nuts.
You train the dog with the sleeve, and then every time we're out, the dog only bites the nuts. Like something's up with that. I didn't teach him that.
Yeah. Well, I'd be curious to know, from a training standpoint, purely just what the context is in terms of where the dog's being sent from, how the guy's presenting himself or not, because that usually dictates, even when a dog is trained to target certain areas, and you can do, just like with people, thousands of repetitions to where it's pretty automatic, but you also have to accommodate for and teach the dog to take whatever is available if that target area is not presented, and so usually when people get bit in the face, the neck, the nuts, places that aren't typically used as target areas, that's generally why, but not always. I mean, sometimes it's maybe the dog is, just doing something different for who knows what reason. But without seeing it, it's hard to make any type of analysis. But did you guys have an instance where the dog was sent in and it was like a really close call where the dog got to somebody right before that dude opened up on you guys?
Well, that's kind of what the Uday Qusay thing was, is they killed the dog at the top of the stairs.
Can you walk us through that?
The training issue is a dog's focus on a guy drops. Is he dead or alive, right? The dog should go to the next guy, and the dog went to the dead guy, and the live guys shot the dog. Makes sense?
Yeah.
And then later that was trained out to where, like, I got buddies who are dog guys where their dogs are like leaping dudes as he's dropping them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To bite another guy somewhere in the back.
Yeah.
So I know that was a training issue and fixed, but that was like probably one of the first things I seen with dogs was that,
Yeah. I will say purely from a training and tactic standpoint, that presents a tricky situation because it can go both ways. If it's just one guy and he plays dead and the dog has been trained not to engage what we would call dead prey, then that's also a problem. So you've got to have a dog that'll do both, which is tough to do because different situations may call for a completely or even polar opposite different reaction from the dog.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the Uday Qusay mission and how that went down?
Well, I wasn't there that day. I just carried the bodies off the plane later.
Oh, no shit.
But only because we had all just got back, and the other troop had morning duty, and they got the call and it was fuck, you guys got morning duty. You want to fly with us? I'm like, fuck, I need some sleep, man. No, fuck no. You know what I mean? And I had to do my daytime job, which is fucking running around alone,
Sure.
And then a fucking few hours later, I had to carry the bodies off the plane and guard them.
Man. Uday and Qusay's bodies. I remember hearing that they had some pretty interesting shit with them, like pallets of Blue Label and fucking Viagra and pallets of cash and just total Playboy shit. Is that not accurate?
No, not really. They didn't have that much in that house. There was some they did try to make on maps where they were going to attack Americans.
Oh, really?
And then when the guys started shooting at the house, they set all their intel on fire, right? And they dropped it in a washing machine and they closed the lid. And it did, and none of it burned.
Fucking genius. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right, so you did a number of deployments in Iraq. As the time progressed, did you guys find? Because if you got out in 11, do you remember the last year that you deployed to Iraq?
Yeah, fucking 10.
10?
I retired spring of 11, so I didn't deploy 11 at all.
Okay. So, from the time you started until your last deployment there, it seems like there's a pretty significant progression of downturn in activity operationally. Did you guys still stay super busy that whole time?
I don't know, man. I was a sergeant major, so I was kind of, towards the end there, I was kind of out of the loop of what the guys were doing. But I would say this, the guys were busy. And then as both Iraq and Afghanistan went on, the Army wants to take it over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just how it works. And when that happens, it sucks.
It's game over. Yeah. From a deck of cards standpoint, in terms of super high value targets, did you guys any raids that you were on in particular? Did you get any of those guys?
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. I mean, I just told you, Uday Qusay, there's two aces right there. Saddam, I'd left. And he was captured 8 or 9 days. We knew we were close. We knew we were tightening. It just was Christmas time. Our rotation was over.
Yeah.
I got home, and then it was I heard he was captured. It was what in the fuck? We knew we were close. You know what I mean?
So the dudes that got him had just showed up and fucking...
Yeah,
Man.
They showed up on we were chipping away at it, man.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah. And we had rolled up everybody. I had all the guys close at one point. We rolled up everybody. Anybody who, and I'll tell you an interesting Saddam fact is his butlers, his tailor, all the people that touched him or touched his food were all Christians.
Really?
Yeah, because because like Muslims kill you, kill them. That's good for their God. That's you go to heaven. Christians, you kill you, you're bad. So Christians less likely. So
he trusted them more.
Saddam's, yeah, and this is why there was Christians in Iraq, which is probably more than there is now because ISIS didn't like them too much.
Yeah.
But Saddam used to allow all the Christians.
Yeah.
Because they were his inner circle.
Wow. Shit, I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
I had to turn a bunch of them as sources, and at first I thought, what do I got in common? How do I talk to these guys? They're fucking Christians. Like you talk to them about Jesus. You know?
Did you find that they were fairly easy to turn in that regard, and you could get them to talk?
Yeah. I mean, because think about this. They're Christians.
Yeah. So
they're not born to hate you.
Yeah.
They're born to like be nice to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. Mission-wise within Iraq, I know you said you hit a lot of the deck of cards, high-value targets. Were there any missions that were way outside the scope of what you would consider a typical, which I know is kind of a oxymoron, a typical special operations mission, but I mean an assault, a raid? I mean, did you guys do anything that was just like way the fuck outside the bounds that stands out?
All the time.
Yeah. Is there...
All the time. And I'd tell you this, during the Saddam days when no one knew what the fuck was going on, like that was fucking daily.
Yeah. Is there, can you give us some examples of...
Man, I mean, all kinds of shit. We fucking, one of the guys, I don't know, we walked up to the house. It's one of the high deck of cards. I don't remember which one it was, but it's like, I can't tell you how many like kings and fucking aces and, you know, I think my squadron had like, but anyway, we walk up on the house and there's like literally I'm coming from one side, my team, and another guy's coming from the other side. And there's a guy sitting there with his AK, just like sitting next to him as security. And like, really, we just walked up, snatched it from him, fucking went in the house. Another guy, we shotgun breached the house, one shotgun round, boom, door comes open. And like, we were like, we just kind of took this dude's family hostage till he turned himself in. And it took like 36 hours.
Wow.
Like, I'm going to tell you, the fucking shit we did to capture Saddam was straight up, someone needs to write a book about it.
Yeah, like fucking mob style.
Fucking crazy shit.
Yeah.
Crazy shit.
Did you guys ever come across some crazy shit inside the house that was abnormal, like any weird shit?
No one really opposed us in the house. You'd be crazy to do that. It's over so fucking quick. Not really, but like crazy shit is like they pull up all the tile and there's 155 rounds under the floor waiting on you.
Shit. Wow.
Yeah, that shit happens from time to time. But I would say, look, here's the way I see it. And I used to tell my guys this all the time. If we're going to fire one time to date, we need to be ready to kill this whole fucking village, everybody in it, everybody here, so we walk away. The reality is we can probably make sure that doesn't happen tonight by not firing that shot and fucking trying to sort out these problems one by one. You know, and then I would say the war was irregular till Zarqawi because that's the first military, you know, guy that we had to militarily go after.
So you saw a significant shift once Zarqawi took over in terms of the opposition you were facing?
Fuck yeah.
It's a lot more fierce?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Did it seem like it was more difficult for you guys at that point?
Well, it went from like, you know, someone had a Saddam sighting in Baghdad. We have to go to this house. And then like, oh, we got 12 males in the house. Let's look at these guys. Oh, 12 guys with Saddam mustaches is what we fucking got here. It could be a fucking Saddam's fucking convention. Yeah. Oh, what you don't know, that was the most popular look in fucking Iraq. You know what I mean? Like, so like there was some fucking weird shit in the beginning of the war that you couldn't have accounted for or even seen coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Zarqawi, man, we created that market on foreign fighters and they came to die like you read about and we were willing to give it to them.
Yeah. Were you guys doing a lot of the sensitive site exploitation post-target, or did other people?
All of it. We do our own shit.
And were there certain pieces of information that you came across that were exceptionally alarming, like anything that stood out as being abnormal?
Man, like I raided a fucking place in Afghanistan and they had like London, Paris phone numbers in their fucking shitty phone that I didn't want to touch. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, fucking all the time.
All kinds
Like,
of stuff.
you know, fucking George Bush propaganda looking like the devil, or you were always, there was always like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Kind of shit. Always.
All right, folks, that's the Veterans Day special. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed interviewing all these veterans over the years. And if there's one thing that you take away from the entire show, it's just, you know, the appreciation for not just current day veterans that have served, but, you know, from the start of this great nation, you know, starting with the Revolutionary War and all of the, you know, great Americans that have sacrificed and, you know, served their country to give us what we have today. That's the intent of the episode. I hope that you guys enjoy it. And as always, thank you for the support. We'll see you next time.